Yeah, that was awesome. Congratulations. We still got 2 more coming that we know of.
We're recording, so. Okay. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 12th, 2018. Rachel, will you please call roll?
Yes, thank you. Joe Greer.
Present.
Jessica West.
Present.
Keith Bevan.
Present.
Tom Gelsomino.
Present.
Michelle Jensen is absent. Jackson Jones will be here shortly. John Nesmith.
Present.
Mike Pepin is absent. Craig Steele.
Present.
Okay, next item is the adoption of the agenda. I get someone to.
Madam President, I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Option carries. Next, can we get an approval of the November 14th, 2018 regular meeting minutes?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the November 14th regular meeting minutes.
Madam President, second, excuse me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approval carries. Next, we have announcements with Steve Sitaway.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I want to know you to know. I think you know this, but I just want to say again how much we appreciate the work that the commission puts on our behalf as a department for being a sounding board. Tonight you'll be helping us on many things from Lime scooters to our main focus will be our Pathways workshop and digging into some refining some of the Pathways network map. But throughout the year, you guys help us significantly in big ways. And it's Christmas, and we have a small token of our appreciation. We sometimes wait till the end of the meeting to hand them out, but we've had commissioners that had to leave early before, and so we thought we'd just get it to you at the beginning of the meeting. So I will come around and hand these out with individual thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Keith, thank you.
Right.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Not only here, but my
Very cool.
Power?
Janice. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Little
T.
power
Extra
charger?
battery.
Yeah.
So,
It says Meridian like at that school.
Thank you so much. This is such a nice little gift.
Yeah.
Very useful, come in very handy.
yeah, they're little chargers that you can use with your cell phones or other devices. So, little bit of extra juice to keep with you when you need it. So, thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. So, are you done with announcements?
No, there's upcoming event. I'm done with my part.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're finished.
Yes.
Although, thank you. I did see you at the Winterland Festival, so. Hi, Shelley.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
I'm your resident paper tosser, so I have given you a few little tidbits. You'll notice we don't have our typical calendar of upcoming events because we've kind of for once exhausted ourselves. Our big rush of Christmas events are over, and we had a coffee with the mayor earlier this week, and now there's kind of a hush. And so rather than try to pull unrelated events from the community calendar, I really couldn't even find any other than board meetings or commission meetings. So anyway, we're going to take a little break from the community calendar. I would call to mind the State of the City Address flyer. As you know, that's our next big event coming up on February 6th. It'll be a little different because it's going to be at the Galaxy Event Center over at Wahoo's, so that'll kind of change up the vibe a little, and we'll be maybe working out a few kinks, but I'm working closely with the mayor's office to coordinate with that. So we'll be talking to you, and we'll need to find out. You'll need to RSVP if you want to attend. We do have a limited capacity of seats, so they're trying to figure out internally who all's going, and then they'll open up ticket sales, I think, January 2nd or 3rd to the public. So anyway, give that some thought and get it on your calendar if that's an event you like to attend. Also, our new activity guide came out. That's exciting. So that was in Friday's Meridian Press, and then it should be hitting mailboxes anytime now. So anyway, we've got brand new classes that we haven't done before, children's cooking and some health, wellness, and nutrition for adults, furniture restyling, some things we haven't tried before. So we'd have you take a look at that, and copies are always available here at City Hall, or they're online on our website as well. Also hot off the press is this bad boy. It's our annual report that I like to put together for you each year. It kind of tells in words and pictures what we considered some of the highlights of our year to be. We can't include every single little thing that we're proud of, so we kind of pick the most photogenic and some of the most interesting. So feel free to take a look at that and let that remind you of all that you've helped us accomplish this year and what we still have yet to accomplish together. Again, thank you so much for all you do, and especially for your participation in the Christmas activities. Jo is on the Christmas and Meridian Committee. She's like a one-woman whirlwind, getting that tree lighting and the parade staging event, the main stage ready. Dom was the host with the most at the night of the parade over at the chamber office, and Jess helped us be all costumed and get our theme ready for the float. And so really, all you guys were such good sports, and we appreciate all you did to pitch in and help. If you have any questions, worries, concerns, you always know where to find me. But for now, I think it's our chance to kind of catch our breath and figure out what's next. So I'm going to go play 80s music trivia. My dad wanted to be on my team, but I declined because I explained to him, Dad, it's the 1980s, not the 1880s. I think I hurt his feelings.
Hey, Shelley, before you escape, thank you as well, because throughout all of these festivities, you are really at the base of all of those. So.
Oh, we really had fun at the Winterland Festival that Joe chaired. Amazing. We had a great time. So everyone was really pleased.
It was the best Christmas ever.
It was.
Madam President.
Yes.
Shelley, before you go, I'd like to add on to that. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and all of ours for everything you do. Everybody on the second and third floor, you guys are absolutely amazing. Shelley, I don't know a photographer that is more talented than you are. You take amazing photos, and I think we as a city market ourselves so well. And our marketing is so much more improved, not only by our messaging, but by your photos. They convey so much more to the people who view it.
That's sweet of you to say. You're good-looking subjects.
Thank you.
And before we leave Madam President, before we leave the Christmas activities, I just, like if we could make a note or something, I'd like to know more about the parking changes that happened for the event. I felt like they were a lot different than I anticipated or expected from last year, and I know I had a lot of feedback of frustration about the new closures and things like that. So for
Parking?
Parking, in what context?
the road closures for the parade.
Oh, gosh. I know very little about
Well,
that
that's
or
why I
how
said, can
they
we just
change
put-
from 1 year to the
Can we
next.
just put a note down to maybe find out like why those changed so significantly for this year is all I'm saying. I didn't expect you to have it, but since we're on that topic, I just want to make sure we can discuss that a little bit or find out.
So we have had a couple of comments come in about road closures. The one that seems to have gained the most attention was Locust Grove in Franklin.
Yes, exactly. It closed off all the way, much
And I think
further than in years past.
And now, having not been directly involved in that, because the decision's actually made by ACHD, we say, here's the parade route, and they determine where the closures need to happen. But I do understand that at that arterial road, they wanted to prevent, traffic from going all the way to Main Street only to find it closed and having to turn around and come back. So that part makes sense. The part that doesn't make sense to me is it also sounds like maybe they weren't letting local traffic in. So that part, I think, is an understandable frustration. We have captured that in our notes, and there will be a debrief together with ACHD and the whole committee. At least I think ACHD will be there this Friday.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was captured. I know I got a lot of feedback from it, and I was definitely confused and kind of frustrated out there trying to figure out different roads to get in.
Okay, yeah, note well taken, well
Okay,
taken.
thank you.
Yeah, so there was going to be a debriefing.
you
We're going to talk
already
about
have
what went
something.
well, what didn't, what could we tweak or massage, and so we can talk to you a little bit more about that.
I just want to make sure we
soon.
captured it somewhere, and since we were hitting a real high level, because I love everything about the event was like wonderful. You were amazing.
No, if you guys have any very specific
But it was
feedback, let us know.
Specific that I really
And trying to
struggled with
get to the park was, they weren't letting people through,
at all.
get to the park.
Way
So-
beyond the boundaries of years past.
And so generally after the parade, we have a meeting to kind of go over the information and follow up. I haven't seen a notice for that yet, but Renee usually has one.
This Friday.
Is it Friday? Okay. And so
Oh,
bring that
you
up.
mean for your committee?
Yeah, for the committee.
Yeah.
Oh.
Colin, do you have any information on that?
No, there's no, I don't think there's a
you
debrief
seen
meeting
any?
for the Christmas and Meridian Committee. Yeah, the meeting that Steve's talking about is the special event team,
Oh.
like the City of Meridian special event team, so police, fire,
city meeting.
planning, and it's
Okay.
it's a city debrief meeting, and I believe John Wasson with ACHD will be there, and I think typically we wait until that meetings happens before the Christmas and Meridian committee debriefs, so that Renee has the opportunity to bring all that information to the committee so that she can give answers for questions just like that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So then at that meeting, you guys can present that information or, okay.
Cities.
That would be
Absolutely, we will keep you in the loop and with what's discussed.
Thank you.
Thank you, excellent. We welcome your feedback.
Good to know.
Good,
I'm at the
bad, and
stage. I have
otherwise.
no idea.
It helps us improve.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. And then we have, are you taking our group photo? Now?
I think there's enough of you. We're just missing one person. It's inevitable. We're always going to be missing somebody. So let's please scamper like bunnies.
Funny. Like Frosty the Snowman. We could try one in here, or we could go out in the foyer. Okay.
Oh, can it lift off? That would be nice if it could go away. Okay, fellas, I need you to center yourself, move over and center yourselves. I know you feel a little goofy. John, can you take a step forward, please? Like that. That's right. Stomach in, shoulders. Right? Okay, I'm gonna flash, I'm sorry, it's not very pleasant. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna try one without the flash. I know, without the flash. 1, 2, 3. I think we're gonna use the flash, sorry. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. Shake it off. I know, it hurt.
Up for sale to the highest bidder.
You can't afford it.
We'll be right back. All right. Ooh. Are they?
Is it,
Oh. So you get the healthy stuff and we get the calories.
is this what's doing it?
Shelley?
I think it's
Are we all back in place? Okay, so we do not have any old business, so that moves on to new business, which we have the commission annual report. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to look at that. I know that Rachel was very kind to send that out ahead of time. I appreciate Jessica requesting that. Did anyone have any questions regarding the annual report? I had a chance to look at it. I believe that we need, and this is an action item, so I believe we need a motion to approve. Is that correct, Emily?
Thank you. Madam Chair, you do not have to vote, but
no.
if you wish to vote, you may.
It's already done.
You guys are good? Okay. Does anyone have any opposition? Okay. Then we'll just move forward. That'll be easy. How's that? Okay, so now we get into, we have our 2019 commission elections, and this is an action item. And so I have a script. Thank you, Emily, for grabbing that. I did not memorize this. So, of course, every year we have elections in December. We have one for the chair, which is essentially the president, where the vice chair is automatically nominated. And then we have a new nominee for the vice chair. And before we get started, though, I just wanted to tell you guys thank you. This is the first time that I've been in the chair seat on a commission, or this is the first commission I've been on as well, but it's an honor to work with all of you and to have the opportunity to have leadership and to learn. There's a lot of learning, especially a lot of legal learning with Emily. And I'm proud to be part of this city, but even more honored to be part of this commission and to be serving with all of you, because everyone is, as you know, appointed by the mayor, which means you're the best people in the city, in my mind. So thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have to. Sorry. And I love being president. I would do it all the time. But we have to give somebody else an opportunity. And Jessica is, I feel, well equipped to do that. So with that, we have, I'm just going to read through this script. It's going to be a little, legal. The next order of business is election of officers. So the Meridian City Code directs us to hold election at our December meeting. Our bylaws state the officers of the commission shall include the commission chair and commission vice chair. Our bylaws also state that our current vice chair, Jessica West, is automatically nominated for chair. I will now take any additional nominations from the floor for the office of chair. So then we vote.
Close nomination.
No, yeah, we gotta close.
Close.
Nomination.
Close
Okay.
the.
Oh, for chair. So now I read the next one.
No, we need to.
No, you would
We've closed the
close-
nominations. Now we need to vote.
Okay. This needs to have more directions on it. Okay, please come help me. Please come help me figure out what I'm reading. Okay.
Just start here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Nope.
Oh, wait.
Just right there.
The nominations for chair are now closed. We will now vote. All those in favor of electing Jessica West as chair, please raise your hands.
Or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay.
Good.
So I have to say how many.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so go
Oh.
down to
That.
right here.
Okay, so congratulations, Jessica West, for becoming the new chair. Oh my
Thank you.
goodness. I need
I'm
training
very
on this.
excited at this opportunity. I'm really excited. So thank you so much for voting for me.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm excited for you to be here. Okay, so now So is this just the next one?
Yep.
Oh, so now I will now open nominations from the floor for the office of vice chair. And I'm gonna mess this up. I can nominate, right?
Yep.
I'm going to nominate Dom Gelsomino, I get it, for the vice chair seat. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? You guys are freaking me out. Seeing none, the nominations for vice chair are now closed. We will now vote. All those in favor of electing Dom as vice chair, please raise your hands. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Vice Chair Dom Gelsomino. Okay.
Thank you,
I had
Madam
to- I
President.
had to put that out as.
Thank you, guys.
Tell us how to pronounce your last name.
Yeah.
So,
Gelsomino. So,
Gel.
like hair gel at the beginning.
Gel.
So Mino.
So
Amino.
Gelsomino. Yeah, except.
mean.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So now we have brainstorm, identify the 2019 all-commission goals with Steve Sidaway. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Madam President, before we do that, I just talked with Emily, and I think I would like to go back to item A just long enough to actually do the motion. We have had that approved by motion in past years, and I think the clerk expressed a preference for it to be actually formally approved since it will be going forward to council.
Absolutely.
So if you're willing, let's back up and
It's my last meeting, of course.
approve that by motion.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Parks and Rec's annual report for 2018.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam President,
Yeah.
just as a point of clarity, just because you are no longer chair, you are still serving on the commission, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
You can't get rid of me that easy. So the appointment is 3 years, so I was reappointed in October. Actually, the mayor told me I was not allowed to leave. Sometimes. Okay, so back to item C.
Is that up on there? All right, Madam President, members of the commission. I've done a little bit of pre-work for you to try and streamline the discussions, but want to make sure before I go into this that we're all open to additional changes or additions from the commission that can be proposed. But on the second page of the agenda are the current 2018 all-commission goals that were adopted by the commission exactly 1 year ago for this coming year. I went through them and looked for changes that needed to be made, some obvious like supporting the fire station in Bear Creek, which has now changed locations. But we have on the screen a proposed list, and what I'll do, I'll just run through each of them real quickly and talk about what's been tweaked on them compared to the currently adopted goals. Item 1 deals with the connected pathway system, with 5 Mile Creek as and Railway Trail as the top priorities. I have not changed that one a bit. The second one, I changed South Meridian Regional Park and Exploration Park to Discovery Park to reflect its new name, and then talked about since we're leading into the grand opening and not be in design, I've just updated that to supporting the construction and grand opening of that new park, which will be a major initiative for our department and this commission in the coming year. Number 3, we've got the approved funds for the band shell. In some ways, this one could be deleted, but I actually thought it was good to keep it on and just change, providing feedback on plans to supporting the construction of until that's actually done, because I know that's been a priority for the commission to see that one through. So I just tweaked that one from the planning to the construction side of it. Number 4, no change. I think there's still interest in coordinating with the City of Eagle on connecting our pathway systems. In fact, we've reached out to the Eagle director. We hope to have him here for an update, possibly as early as next month. So, but certainly the first part of next year. Number 5 is Bay 5 of the home court, and again, I just tweaked that one because we're past the stage of recommending preferred options. We now have a preferred option. It's gone forward to council. We have funding. We should be under construction this coming year. So I've tweaked that one to say support the planned improvements for Bay 5 of the home court. Again, another major initiative for our department and this commission for the coming year. Number 6 was about exploring options for additional partnerships. We have one in the works that I thought was worth specifically capturing, and that is our partnership with the Arts Commission to add theming and identity art at both Champion and Renaissance Parks. So I think that's a big one coming up that commissioners will be involved in the selection of those art pieces. Number 7, no change proposed for greater commission involvement and presence at community events. Number 8, engaging other task forces or other commissions, entities, agencies. We often hear from other partnering agencies throughout the year, and we'd like to continue that. So no change there. Number 9, seems like a good idea to continue discussing progress on the goals in the master plan that we've adopted, so no change there. 10, I did propose to delete, in fact, so it doesn't show up on the new one, but it's one that we talked about participating in Parks and Recreation Month to help fostering community engagement. This is something that is done on a national level, usually in the month of July. We tried doing some photos and hashtags the previous year. It was not very successful. We have our own events for Independence Day celebration and thing that we think are more suited to how we want to promote Parks and Recreation in the department. We haven't found a lot of value in the NRPA Parks and Recreation Month promotion. So anyway, the proposal is just to delete that one. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but just that we find that the events we're already doing are more of a focus for us. So the new number 10, old number 11, no change to that. That's pursuing improved tools and opportunities to engage our citizens and stakeholders. That's Shelley's world with marketing and other outreach efforts. Old number 12 is about the fire station, and I've proposed that to just delete that one. I will say that it's not that it's a completely dead topic. In fact, we have a meeting set on the calendar for February with the fire department to talk about co-location of the fire station. It's just that the actual implementation of that is probably years away, so I don't think it's an active goal for the commission to focus on a monthly basis. If there was strong desire to have that up, we certainly could, but it's my proposal just to take it off the immediate commission's goals until it's ready to become when it's closer to becoming a project. And then old number 13, now 11, is ADA compliance repairs. and supporting that. We're actually doing very well on our efforts to bring the system up to ADA compliance with the addition of Fuller Park. We now have some additional work to do there. So at one point I thought about deleting this because we're close to completing the initial list of projects, but it's a good goal to continue with. So I just left that on there unchanged. With that, I would just ask if anyone has, any other goals that aren't on here or changes that you'd like to discuss as a commission.
Madam President. Steve, an observation. Last year, we put these goals together, and number 1 and number 4, very important to us. I'd like to, if we're going to carry those forward in essentially the same fashion, do you think we need to have a subcommittee to help heighten the work around those 2 goals? Like personally, if it's a number 1 and it's a copy and paste, what can we do to improve the efforts to get somewhere? And I'm not saying we didn't get anywhere, so wrong choice of words there, but if number 1 and number 4 are moving essentially the same, do we need to do something different?
Couple thoughts. I would love the additional support. I don't think they're not changing because of lack of progress, because they're big goals, right? They say they're 5 Mile Creek, they're the rail with trail. I think what I would say is let's keep the idea open. We're going to talk a lot about pathways tonight, including updates on the specific pathway priorities that were adopted. I mean, there's a whole subset of, I think, 12-ish pathway priorities underneath this goal that the commission adopted, and we're gonna go through those, and then we can talk about, what efforts maybe the commission can engage in.
Well, I refer back to when I started a year ago, we had subcommittees. And if those subcommittees enabled more direct involvement and more traction in some of these areas that are needed, it could be something we could look at. And I'm not saying every single thing that comes up needs a subcommittee, but I just bring that up to the commission that at one time that was a preferred method. We went away from it, and if the pathways and rail with trail need that, I'd be supportive of talking about that some more to help Kim out and the city out on that aspect, because there is movement there. But as a number 1, I like to see, do we need a concerted effort? So just an observation. So,
Madam President?
Yeah.
Let me make sure, yeah, okay. Steve, kind of with Mike here, with the pathway system, looking at number 1, I think part of what you said on what can we control or what can we help with versus what we can't. And right now, rail with trail is pretty much out of our realm totally, as far as we need to get easements and everything else that has to be done, even in talking with UP, and we're not there. So maybe we restructure that to include those items, and maybe we bring the Eagle connections or even other city connections with Nampa and Cuna and Boise into that versus the rail with trail, and make it its own separate. Not that we don't need to be looking at it, but as an item with the rest of our pathways, I don't think it's there.
So I'm foreshadowing some of Kim's presentation, but the regional committee for Rail with Trail through Compass has recently been re-energized. I think given the priority of that pathway to us as a city, it makes sense to keep it there. If there are others that you want to talk about as priorities, well, I'm sure we'll be getting into that here shortly. And just so you know what's coming is later on the agenda is there will be a separate effort for identifying and prioritizing pathway priorities for the commission. And we will get that feedback tonight. We will put together a resolution specifically for pathways to bring back to you next month. So that is what the meat of tonight's going to be all about is determining those pathways that the commission would like to focus on, and then we'll bring that back to you for your approval next month.
So do we want to make the railroad trail its own piece of this pie?
Well, I'm comfortable with it as written as we've talked about, rather than doing one here, one there, we used to our priority used to be looking for low-hanging fruit regardless of location. And we did a little bit in the north, a little bit in the south, some east, some west, just where we could make a connection. The more recent discussion and focus has been on, let's focus on the 5 Mile Creek pathway and get that connected as a priority, because we want to focus on a continuous and not go helter-skelter. I still think that's a good goal. I think the rail with trail, while it's certainly not low-hanging fruit, is an important regional priority, and it makes sense to put some efforts and keep the commission updated on.
Mike brought up some really good points. I'm going to kind of follow up on a couple of them. So then maybe on number 4, we don't just put City of Eagle, we put City of Eagle and neighboring communities, because we're headed west right into Nampa. So, it's just keeps those kind of in the light.
Absolutely. I mean, we can invite other neighboring cities just like we have invited the City of Eagle. We have done that in past years. It's been a few years. And it was the focus of the commission last year to want to focus on those connections with Eagle. But if you want to expand that, I'm totally comfortable.
Yeah, I think leaving Eagle there, because it is very important to get to the green belt and everything else. But, again, we don't want, and that, I mean, we don't want to run into Cuna and have a dead end, or Nampa, or even Boise, so.
Madam President.
Good add.
Sorry, Steve, if you want to answer.
Well, I was just going to try and see if I saw a lot of head nods, so maybe we ought to try and capture that in a wording change while we're in the mode. Oh, you already did it. The City of Eagle and neighboring communities.
She's on it.
The plan for the connection of our pathway
I did
systems.
want to add
okay?
one thing to Mike's suggestion. So when we had the committees, we had, I think, 4 different committees, and so what was happening is that some of them had still genuine purpose, and then some of them had kind of phased out. But the discussion about removing the committees is that if something came up where it needed to be addressed, that we essentially could really handle it in a commission meeting, kind of like a workshop.
Okay.
So if we need to, I think that's kind of what we came up with, which is probably why we have a workshop tonight. But you are correct, and I agree with that. Some of these items seem like they sit, and if we can, in any way, help, push them forward. Not that you guys aren't working furiously, we know this, but if there's something that we can do to help, and if it needs to be, at a commission meeting, and we need to set aside time for that, then
we also need, along with that, council, and I've talked to a few of them, we need more money for pathways, because we've still got the build out inside of the construction areas. There's a lot of pathways inside the city that are never going to get built out with construction funding, so we need to look at those and see what we can do on that level also.
Madam President, I am so glad, Steve, that Commissioner Steele brought that up with regards to our neighboring areas such as Nampa, Cuna, because based on the discussion we had earlier this month that we had in your office versus on the commission, because this meeting happened after our last commission meeting, one of our state lawmakers from Nampa, Brent Crane, approached me and said, I'm jealous of your parks. Nampa is jealous of your parks, of your pathways, of what you guys are doing. And he and I had an hour-long conversation of, what is Meridian doing right, and what is your guys' parks and recreation department doing right that Nampa could potentially do better on, that we could make our their parks, improve as time goes on. And, I mean, the fact that we are gaining the attention of lawmakers, especially powerful ones, such as leadership in the state legislature, that's a huge, compliment to who we are and all the hard work that everybody from the commission to the department to, everyone does. And I'm glad that Commissioner Steele brought that up, because there are people who are wondering, what can we do to have what Meridian has?
I appreciate the compliment, and we'll be glad to reach out to those neighboring cities and engage them. If I could just back up to the comment about the subcommittee, I would just add this. I think when they were dissolved a year ago, and particularly for the Pathways Committee, I think there were two primary reasons that I'm recalling in that dissolution. And one was that I think those monthly meetings, committee meetings, tended to be more of an update from staff to the committee, more so than work for the committee to do. And as I sit here tonight, I don't know what work could be handed off to the committee, though if you're thinking of things, I'm certainly open. So that's one. The second reason was, because pathways are such a high priority, it was something that the entire commission was interested in. And so the thought was, as often as we need those updates, let's do them to the whole commission instead of just to the committee of 3. So, if the commission would like to be kept more up to date, more frequently on pathway progress, I think we can do that. It might make sense to do it as a quarterly or whatever commission meeting topic, just for an update from Kim, the way that other updates are given. But sitting here right now, I think there's probably more value in that than in trying to establish a separate subcommittee. But that's something we can talk about as we get into the nuts and bolts of the pathway changes.
And it sounds like we need a subcommittee. I know who can
chair it.
The chair for that. Yeah.
Well, and it was more off of what we did in the past, and some members hadn't been here, and I was fairly new at the time. Right. So it's really, if the first word is support development, I want to be able to do that, and obviously, as a group, if we're committed, I'm more committed to number 1 than I am 2 through 11.
Yeah.
How can we show commitment in the support of? So I think not just updates, but how can we help is really more of just kind of throw some ideas out there, how we can help push number 1, because I don't want to push rope. I'd rather help out. So
Madam Commissioner?
Yes.
In response to Mike's comments and also Steve's, and before we prioritize system-wide goals, I just had a couple of comments. Rail with Trail, yes, it's huge and it's a bit out of our hands, and it is, as Steve said, re-energized in terms of the work group at Compass, which does have a much more regional representation. But I think it's important to remember we also have our local project that isn't technically Rail with Trail, but we also feel it's important as a representative and an example and something to point to. So I just mentioned Compass. Part of my monthly meeting duties are to attend a meeting of FACTS, which is an acronym, and I apologize, I don't know what the acronym stands for, but these are Compass, and they're also an interagency group, and it's a lot of retired guys. They're funny, but to Mike's comment, and it's good representation. It's active agency people from Nampa. We had a CUNA comment the other day, don't forget CUNA and Connecting to the South. But it does have this body of volunteer labor tied to it that, will work with consultants. They'll work to write grants. They will work to approach property owners, especially in really tricky situations, say easements along the Boise River, and I think they've had some success with a few assignments outside of the meetings, and because they have that interest in time. So I had jotted that down too as a note of maybe, and especially I think given contacts in the community and expertise professionally, that maybe that could be a help. And I have some ideas for how that could be done. And I think it also might be, it could happen too in just representation, possibly even in that Compass group or public meetings that happen on state highway roadways or ITD roads. So anyway, I have ideas on that. I just wanted to, I think parsing what's a pathway goal and what's a system-wide goal,
Right.
consider all of that, I guess, as you do. Thanks.
That's awesome.
Madam President. Steve, this isn't necessarily a question, but if memory serves me, when we set up these goals as a commission, just to kind of go back through things, it's hard to sit here and just observe and go, yeah, I think you guys should be working on this, but it's not something you necessarily get to work on, you know, so, but it still can be us going there, and city council's priority should be spending money, working on pathway improvements and making that a priority. Even though it's been here quite a while, it can be you don't get to be dirty all the time. But the other thing, so maybe, Rachel, we could put that in bold. Just kidding. You know, all caps, maybe yell a little. Number 4, I think we originally put that on there, Craig. Not that I disagree with your language, but I think it'd be great if we could put the same language in. Number 1 is with the connection to the Greenbelt as the top priority, because that is why that goal got on the list. It wasn't that Nampa and CUNA isn't important, but if you look back towards our goal of quality of life in Meridian, a connection to the Greenbelt, I would think would be a heck of a lot better than a connection, and no offense, to Nampa or CUNA. But if I can get on my bike and ride to Lucky Peak from my house in Meridian, it'd be pretty, or Caldwell, yeah, it'd be pretty cool. So, so that was why we put that on there. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I just thought I'd throw out that you know, Mike, I echo your concern. You know, I mean, but we don't always get to, you know, it can actually be frustrating sometimes, but we still need to push the agenda.
But it's appreciated because in the back of my mind, I was thinking City of Eagle Greenbelt, because we know that, because we listen to the representatives speak, but some people don't know that that was the initial purpose to go there, so.
And even for folks in, you know, from city council, appropriating funds, you know, all that. I mean, it takes effort, Compass, all that stuff. Kim's you know, most of your position is pathways, so.
Yeah. Which is
We do have I mean, from where we started, not having a Kim to where we are now and having somebody connect all this, I mean, there is a large priority of making all this connected. We didn't even have that position 10 years ago.
Right.
When I started, we didn't even have pathways.
Pretty cool. So I just, you know, kudos to Steve and department, and Steve pushed for that position to happen.
Yeah.
So we could fix all these little weird pathway segments and get connectivity. So it came a long ways.
Madam President and John, we were listening and trying to change the wording to number 4 based on the discussion. See if you like this or want any other changes. Encourage coordination with the City of Eagle to connect to the Boise River Greenbelt specifically, and with neighboring communities for additional regional connections of our pathway system.
I think does
that capture what you're saying?
It's perfect.
Okay.
That's all I got. Are we going to do the... Yeah. Okay, cool.
We'll do the voting here once we think we've captured the changes.
Madam President?
Yes.
I think maybe we need to add one, because again, part of what John said and part of what Mike said really holds true, where we're not having the subcommittee meetings. And that, again, that's not a bad thing, because sometimes you run out of things to do, but we really need workshops a lot more if we're not going to have those, because there's a lot of things that we did. I mean, for years we went out and worked on shade, getting shade in certain places, and that dropped. And now we don't have a clue what's going on with shade. You know, where before at least we had a subcommittee that was dealing with all of the park stuff that You know, you had pathways, parks, and liaison, our community.
Right.
So we had the three, but I think sometimes some of that stuff just gets lost. And I mean, you guys do such a great job. It's easy to just kind of let that go. But again, us being here is that inner piece, you know, to help with council and everything else. I think workshops are a big thing.
So help me, what would you propose? Hold workshops during commission meetings to address
Current issues.
current issues.
Madam President and Steve, would we want to put it like on the schedule just by not like every other month? And then just seeing if we have it to align it so we already know that that's coming and that there would be.
I don't know that I'd make a specific set of months, but we do use these goals to draft the agenda. So I think that having it on there, I mean, when we get together to draft the agenda monthly, we can say, okay, is there something we need to workshop this month? And we can use that as a trigger.
Madam President, and as the leaders that we nominate and vote in, that's what we're looking for anyways, for them to set that agenda and identify concerns and workshop areas and things like that. So I'm in all support of that.
And I think anyone on the commission can suggest workshop topics to any and all of us. So we'd be glad to carry those forward.
You have something, John?
Yeah, I just think that's a good goal to put on there, but there's things like the art projects or sometimes I think in the discussion, people might not feel as free to discuss like theming of a park. I think in a workshop environment, it's a little more informal, I guess, and so I think it's kind of a healthy, even if you don't need them an hour and a half. I just think it's a good format.
Right. I agree. Good talk.
Any other changes or additions to the list before we start collecting votes? Be whatever order they put it in individually, right?
Can you, one more time, number 10, the pursue improved tools and opportunities to engage citizens and stakeholders, was that the marketing?
Yes, it's more marketing related. It's one that, because it's more kind of ambiguous, I actually debated myself on whether it had enough meaning to keep on or take off. But honestly, we're always looking for ways to reach out and improve our engagement with citizens. So I kept it on, but if there's specific ideas on how to tweak that, I'm open.
I almost feel like it's so general.
I would agree.
It's a hard goal. It's more of a philosophy.
Madam President, I think one of the things that we linked to that last year was the GPS, right? GPS location mapping.
Oh.
That has brought up. So I know that we're talking about, maybe we're thinking Facebook and events in Facebook, but this also, I believe, was tied to like the GPS mapping. Any tool we can do to engage is going to be a priority that we want to know about and learn more about.
Okay.
Good. Everyone's shaking their head over there. They don't recall. Remember when we talked about the maps and how we'd like to be able to have like the GPS location so that when they're on,
You can find yourself on the map.
and find out where the closest pathway is and things like that. We talked about it as.
Is this separate from the QR codes discussion? Is this something else?
It is separate.
Yeah.
So if you're on Google Maps, you can actually find the pathway based on the pathways that are within the city.
It was like the beginning of this year, maybe last year. Maybe we were just tied in, that's how we brought it over. But I believe that was mapped to that. We were hoping this goal consumes that as well. Like any way we can engage and make it easier on our pathway system to locate.
Is that something that we can do or that we'd have to get Google Maps to do? I guess I'm not clear on what we could do for that.
think we can ask the expert.
I just
think
have
Kim might have
a
a
general
Presented
comment.
it. Was it?
Yeah.
And I think we did talk about that, Commissioner West, and maybe GIS, sort of this, it's similar to GPS, so I don't know if that was the terminology, but I do think with pathways, when a goal for pathways has been to brand and create awareness and create a front door and celebrate, that would be useful. I know that community development is working on better tools on GIS for any community member to just tune in and be able to find information. And some of that I think will affect and improve pathways. That would be a pathway-specific goal for me, maybe a few years out. I know also we have a drone pilot in our midst, and that might be a way to celebrate. So, or to not only document events, but courses of travel. I don't know if we ever list more specific objectives under the goals, or because I do think pathways would really play into the community outreach.
And I do recall that conversation. Anything else on that?
I'm not sure if we've addressed, but I think it can certainly encompass a further discussion on that. We're just over here trying to figure out how we can.
And what you're saying actually is correct. That would be a useful tool, so I can see the need for number 10. That was my whole purpose, was do we need number 10, or is that just something that we generally know we're doing? But
Any other specific additions or changes? If not, what I think we'd like to do is move to the voting. So we have 12 different goals up in front of you that can be, we want to prioritize and have a collective prioritization. So in order to do that, what we'd like to, the way this has worked the best and been the most streamlined in the past is to have each of you individually to just write down your priority for the 12 goals, with 1 being your highest priority and 12 being your lowest priority. And let's see, so we have them all up there. So the goals are currently, so that we don't mix up numbers of priorities with numbers of goals, we're gonna make the goals lettered A through L. Okay, see that? Under the 2019 goals, A is support development, and on down to L, hold workshops during commission meetings. If you could just take 5 minutes right now and just decide for yourself the order 1 through 12 of those, with 1 being your highest priority. What we do is we'll ask you, we'll just go down the list and ask you what number that one is for you, and then we'll add up everyone's scores. Then the lowest total score becomes the highest priority overall for the commission. Does that make sense? So we'll just pause here and let you do your individual scoring, and then we'll have Rachel get your scores from you here in a few minutes.
I'm ready when you are, Rachel. Knew what was coming. Right.
And Councilwoman Genesis brought us some Danish butter cookies up here that I will share if you guys would like some cookies.
That's great. And while you're scoring, I'll just share that Commissioner Steele also brought a plethora of goodies. We have them set up in the break room right here. And once we finish this and get ready to break for the workshop, we'll give everyone a chance to go in and get some hot chocolate and cookies thanks to Commissioner Steele. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hot chocolate.
It's Christmas time.
That's my favorite. I can't get this open. Wait, is it? I don't. I'm like, it needs a knife.
Councilwoman Milam,
And I'm getting.
thank you so much for those particular cookies. They are just, they're addicting. I've had them before, but they're great.
Tools, not a weapon, right?
Well, that's true. They're,
I mean, a car could be a weapon if you used it.
I wonder sometimes there, when I look at it, if it really, it's like a tool, right?
You do that too, yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean,
Really sharp. You're awesome. Now I'm wanting to go in the other room. I'm going to check it out.
hey, yeah, you can run those in there and check out all the other goodies. There's, you can find cinnamon cinnamon, cinnamon bears. And
Just go put
cookies,
this on this.
scones, hot chocolate with marshmallows.
Craig. Should have brought something home.
We're starting a new tradition. We're going to enjoy December. I'm ready.
All right. I think we can start. So that's okay. Commissioner Steele, we'll start with you, if that's okay with you, President Greer. So we'll just start going through A through L. Just go ahead and give us your numbers from top to bottom.
Okay. 1, and number B would be 4. C would be 5. E would be 2. See, let me get my straight here. See, 4, 5, where are we at?
Home court is
Okay.
E.
3, 4, 5. 6 would be 8, 7, 9.
A second.
Commissioner Steele, if you could
Should've-
just
Yeah, I
just
should
say
have
the
did
numbers
ABC,
without the
right?
letters would be great. Thank you.
Here, let me, real quick. All right, so we're on E, right?
E, yes.
E is 3.
Okay.
F is 5.
5.
Wait,
Wait, we
I
have
gotta
two
get this
fives.
straight. So, let me see. A is 1.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I screwed that up.
You want a minute? Or do you got?
Well, actually, no, here. Just give me 1 second to get this.
Madam Chair, I'm ready whenever.
1 second here. E, F,
We're gonna
G, H, I, J, and K. Okay. So we are on E. So,
Go ahead and-
Should we
she
start
raised
over?
her.
yep, okay. A1. B is. Wait a minute. Go ahead and go with Dom.
All right, Dom. Show me.
I had it all set, and then you threw the letters in on me.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Steele, at least you didn't start off with labeling L as C instead. I mean, I was starting to label each letter as a letter, not a number. So, Mr. Sidway, whenever you are ready, sir.
Yeah, I think go ahead. I don't need to call them out. Just give us A through L. Just
Okay.
give us the numbers, and we'll
All
just
right.
go down the list.
Perfect. A is 1, B is 8, C is 12, D is 7, E is 11, F is 10, G is 4, H is 3, I is 5, J is 2, K is 6, L is 9.
All right.
Rachel, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Okay. Joe?
And again, just give me the numbers only, just
Yes.
straight down.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Are you ready? 4, 1, 2, 5, 3, 10, 8, 9, 7, 6. I missed one?
2.
2.
How did I miss 2? 1, 2,
There's 12. You just need an 11 and a 12.
6, 7. Oh, because I crossed them off. Okay, then do 11 and 12.
John? Okay. John Nesmith.
1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 12, 8, 7, 9, 10, 11.
10, 11. Okay. Jessica, are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
1, 3, 4, 2, 5, 10, 12, 7, 11, 6, 8,
Just a second.
9.
7. What was after 7?
11, 6, 8, 9.
8, 9. Okay, got it. Keith, are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
1, 5, 9, 2, 11, 8, 4, 7, 10, 6, 12, 3.
12, 3. Okay. Jackson, are you ready?
Yeah. 1, 3, 6, 2, 7, 9, 3, 4, 7, 4, 8, 11.
We have fourth place.
Doesn't have a 5.
Jay, let's do 5 then.
Need a 5.
And the last two, please.
8 and 11.
8 and 11. Yep. All right. Mike, are you ready?
Yes, sir. 2, 1, 4, 6, 3, 9, 12, 10, 5, 8, 11, 7.
7. And Craig.
Okay. 1 second here. I want to make sure I get these all right. Because once we hit into,
Change them real quick on mine.
go ahead.
Rachel, I need to change on mine on the bottom two, 6 and 11 need to switch. Thank you.
Okay. Ready?
Ready. Go ahead.
1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 8, 9, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12.
Thank you. All right. We'll just pause for a moment and let Rachel work her magic, and we'll add up all the totals.
Wait, 1 second. I need to switch and put the workshops. Sorry, that should be the number 3.
Okay.
All right.
So that one will be 3, and then your current number 3, does it become 12 or?
Yeah, just shift everything else down 1. So, no, so yeah, that would be 3. And then, yeah, after that, it doesn't matter.
So 3 becomes 4 and on down the line?
Now, just go switch 3, make that 3, and then make,
Home court's the one that's currently.
make that 12, because that's going to happen anyway.
Think about it that way.
It's done.
Yeah.
Everything's been approved. You draw it out, and then they throw the alphabet in on it. It's like, okay, now I got to convert to alphabet.
Yeah, right.
See, I had it all laid out to start with right there.
Well, I had crossed them out and then didn't read my own right. Yeah. Brilliant, Joe. Way to go.
That's what I told my algebra teacher back in high school. I said, "You're throwing letters in there? What?" I was always struggling with just the numbers.
Yes. How do you add A and B together? I can make stuff up.
Right. See, then you get, go from algebra then to geometry, then back to algebra, then to pre-calc. I said, geometry is a whole different monster. It made more sense.
You know what I found with a lot of kids? I used to be on the board for the education construction for the Boise School District. And kids that failed geometry, they put them in basically a construction class. They tell them to go out and figure the pitch on a roof for that, where they can physically see it. And geometry becomes very easy for them because they can see it.
Yeah.
Versus, give me the triangle here. They can't. But you tell them, do the pitch on a roof? Oh, yeah. Sure.
Right. It's so much easier when it's tangible, visible. Now, if we could only get schools to teach how to file your taxes and balance your budget at the end of every month.
All right, Madam President, Commissioners, we've tallied the scoring. The overall prioritization for the commission as a whole would have the pathway system first, coordination with Eagle and other communities second. I don't think I need to read them all to you. You can see the scoring and the order there. I guess I would stand for any questions, and if there are none, I think we'd like a motion to approve this as the overall collective priorities of the commission.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the goals that we created for 2019.
Can I get a second?
Madam President, I'd like to second that motion.
I wanted to do.
Jessica,
Sorry.
No.
Jessica West seconds. All in favor?
Cat got
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Okay.
think the cat got his tongue.
All right, thank you very
goals
much.
have been approved. Sorry. Yes. So, moving on, we have the Lime Bike policy discussion with Mike Barton. Hey.
Yay. Let's talk scooters for a second. So just to back up a little bit, everybody's aware that Lime kind of kicked off their scooter rental program in Meridian back in September, and I think they dropped off about 250 scooters, and there was a lot of discussion about it. The scooters were in parks, they were going too fast. They were getting dropped off places they shouldn't be. They were just in the right of way. They were blocking handicap ramps, and there was some general dissatisfaction about having them and the way the program initially kicked off. So Lime was asked to kind of regroup, pull the scooters, let's go back to the drawing board, put some sideboards on the program a little bit. You know, I think the general consensus in the city and in the public is these can be really fun and an amenity that people can enjoy, but I think that they just need to have some sideboards on their program. So Emily's been working on two things and there's been a committee that's actively working on it, and they're giving City Council regular updates. Emily's been the lead on drafting the language, and so there's two things that the city's working on. One is an ordinance update, and the other is a memorandum of agreement that goes into some of the more finer details about behavioral items and specifically in how it relates to city-owned property. So the ordinance update, the good news on that is there's really no input in that our existing ordinance that we have for parks kind of covers what we think needs to be covered, and so the bulk of our work is in the MOA portion of it. So our existing ordinance says that it reads wheeled devices, and it goes on to talk about skateboards, roller skate scooters, inline skates, or any other wheeled recreation equipment can't be on ornamental surfaces, picnic tables, benches, tennis courts, fountain areas, splash pads, playground equipment, and planters and such. So we feel we have that pretty well covered, or at least ordinance-wise. So really the memorandum of agreement is what we would like to, we've done a little bit of work and we've kind of crafted some of that and would like your input on, did we leave anything out? Are we headed in the right direction? And really what it boils down to is the conduct of the operator, and that there's just some bullets that I'd like to go over with you, that there's a lot of whereases and stuff that needs to be there, but it's going to be there regardless. So we don't need to go over all that. But
Madam President, Mike,
yeah.
Where is that you want us to be looking at right now in this?
So I don't have it because it was kind of fresh as of yesterday, and what I'd like to do is just discuss it, and hopefully, I mean, I don't know if you could take some notes, or I can pause and back up, or I mean, if that's helpful, will that be easy enough to follow along, or? There isn't anything on the screen to look at.
There's nothing on the screen.
No, I apologize
and we don't
for that.
have.
There isn't. We might be able to use the projector possibly.
And so the goal, just tell us what you want from us, Mike.
Well, so the goal of tonight's discussion is to tell you where we're headed with specific guidelines on how these scooters interact with parks. And we have a short list of items, and I want to find out if we've covered everything, or is it too much? I don't think it is, but really I think the goal is to find out if we've left anything out. So I think we'll start with.
Excuse me, Madam Chair and Mike.
Yeah.
We do have the doc cam available if you want to use the overhead.
Projector.
Oh yeah, is that? Oh no, I'm sorry. It's over here now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's really 4 items, and then there's there's 3 or 4 subcategories in one of them.
Just go ahead and go for it, Mike.
So it's not a lot of information to process. So I think we'll, and we can back up and take our time to kind of be thoughtful about it. So there's timely response. So if we see anything that's illegally parked or it's broken down, then there'll be a contact, and they need to respond within 2 hours of receiving notice that there's something in the way that needs to be moved. That's one of them. We think that's pretty heavy-handed, fair. It's not 24 hours, it's 2 hours. So if a scooter's blocking a handicap ramp or it's left in the middle of a parking lot or a drive aisle, they've got 2 hours to move it.
Madam President, just for the back history on this, I just want to make sure I understand. So it's an entity already worked out that the Lime scooters were coming to Meridian, and they implemented it with the city's, was it Meridian Parks and Rec Department?
No, so
Is
back
that-
in September, so Lime approached the city last summer and talked about deploying scooters within the city of Meridian that can be rented. And I don't know, are you familiar with what the program is? And
I've become familiar by seeing the scooters and trying to rent one to kind of get an idea and seeing it on the news.
Okay.
Before that,
Yeah.
before I saw it on the news and things, I had no previous knowledge
Right.
that it was coming or anything like that. I was trying
Right.
to understand for this,
well,
the entity driving this, and then we are now being asked to respond to these 4 issues, it sounds like, with
Yes.
a plan for their
Well-
public areas.
well, we're not responding to 4 issues. We're putting sideboards on their program. So it's kind of the desire of the citizens and the city of Meridian to allow these scooters to operate within city limits. So we're just putting sideboards on their program where they can't just dump them off and have free reign of whatever. So we're saying these are kind of your guidelines on how to operate and how to behave.
Madam President, I have a question. So does the city of Meridian, either the police or city council, have a say in any of, outside of the parks, the city sidewalks and streets and everything else that these things seem to clutter up? I'm just curious, not just us, but who else is involved with putting those parameters around it? Because, when they dumped them off, it was like, what is going on here? There's scooters everywhere,
Right.
And it's like,
Madam
somebody
Chair.
must not have approved this.
Keith, that's a great question, and that's why they were, and that's kind of how it was rolled out, and that's why it was pulled back. And right now, there's been a committee formed, and there's representatives from the police department and from ACHD. The city council has been kept in the loop every step of the way. This MOA will go to council. So this is not just between parks and the operators. I think Genesis was going to add to that. Did I?
Madam President, no, it's, well, you've done a great job, Mike. I'm pretty sure they don't need our permission at all. So they don't have to sign an MOU. If they just wanted to come and deploy these bikes, scooters all over the city, they can. So they're working with us because they want us to support the program, and they want to be good, they're not citizens, a good business community partner. That's why they're doing this. They don't have to.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Madam President,
Which is kind of scary.
Councilwoman Milam, just out of curiosity, why do they not need City Council's permission if they are going to use that?
Madam Chair, if I could just jump in. To clarify, they do need our permission to use our property. So that's where you all come in, because you're helping us craft an agreement with the operators for the operation of the program in parks and on pathways. So that's almost all of the city's property, really. There's the wastewater treatment plant and the water department, but other than that, that's really the focus of, so we're looking at this from the city as a proprietor. So there are other big properties in the city that they'll have to get permission from as well and kind of work that out. But this agreement is intended to establish just our permission to the operators. And the operator is the Lime Bike and Bird and people operating these programs.
Madam President.
So otherwise, are they governed by ACHD?
Madam Chair, the ordinance will cover the operation of the program in the rest of the city.
Okay.
So in public places throughout the rest of the city. Okay. ACHD does own the sidewalks, and we have a license agreement with ACHD for downtown sidewalks, and that agreement will govern downtown sidewalks. So we'll be kind of working on that piece of it. ACHD is partnering, but really since this is a use, like driving is really within the purview of the police. So using sidewalks for, well, walking or riding your bike or whatever sidewalks are for, it's kind of part of the road. So actions on the right-of-way are enforced and overseen by police, and really maintenance of the roadway is overseen by ACHD. But it's still their property. So they have an interest. They don't want it to be damaged. They don't want it to be cluttered. So there's kind of that crossover between public safety and maintenance. So they're involved, certainly, but the ordinance is for the whole city, and the MOA is just for city property. So Mike's seeking your input for just the city property portion of that at this point. We don't know exactly what the whole program will look like when we're done, but for now, we're trying to put together an MOA that will kind of establish the parameters of what they can and can't do in parks and pathways.
Madam President? Mike, were we just caught unaware? I mean, to me, we should have seen this a long time before now because of the impact that it does have on pathways and parks.
Yeah.
So they kind of just skipped us and our input on this whole issue.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there was any intentional slight of any kind. I mean, it was definitely an oversight, and that's one of the reasons why it got pulled. Totally, yeah, you make a good point. And yeah, so it was like, wait, it's not working. Stop, we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to do this right. So that's why we're going through the steps we're going through, and that's why we're here this evening to talk about, you know, are we getting it right? And so, yeah.
Madam President, I just had a very quick point of clarification for the record because our legal counsel did mention other properties. So in the event that these Lime scooters are in the area of a Meridian zip code, but they're in Ada unincorporated, because we do have those areas, who does that responsibility fall under? I know, you know, we kind of covered all that, but I wanted just for that point of clarification because we did mention other entities such as ACHD who would have oversight. What about who would have the oversight of those unincorporated areas?
Madam Chair, so you're right, the city of Meridian does have kind of these pockets of county, but our police department and the Ada County Sheriff's Office and all the surrounding law enforcement agencies work together, and they actually have agreements that let them go into each other's jurisdictions. There's certain circumstances where they can and can't do that, but this is one where I suppose the sheriff could respond to deal with a scooter issue on one of the county pockets, but that would be really rare because they are far away. And so they're used to kind of dealing with that question of where am I and whose jurisdiction is this, and it's becoming less prevalent as Meridian grows and those pockets are annexed. But that's an issue that comes up in many contexts, and they've definitely worked that out with their partner agencies.
Thank you so much.
Yep, great questions. Thank you. So I think one thing to keep in mind maybe is that this MOA that we're crafting is for 1 year, and that it can be at the end of the year we can revisit it, what's working, what's not, where do we need to go, because honestly we can sit here and try to think of everything that you think every scenario that's gonna come up, and you can't. So I think the intent is to get it in place by March and then give it about a year, which really means 6 months with the weather, 7, 8 months maybe. But so that's probably a good thing because we're honestly not going to think of everything. So in addition to, you got to move it after if one of the scooters is in the wrong spot or blocking something, then you need to move it within 2 hours. The hours of operation in a park would be limited to park hours that are half hour after sunset, half hour before sunrise, so you can't go right around Kleiner Park at night. The other thing is that more specifically, as the scooters go almost 15 miles an hour, we're proposing to regulate the speed in all parks to 8. We're saying that the operator has the ability to regulate, and these aren't, so the scooters can be, they're in communication with either Bird or Lime, so they can be throttled down. So if you're going 15 miles an hour and you hit a park, it will automatically throttle down. So that's not a enforcement thing. It's a, they'll program that into their scooters. The other thing that they can program in is that they can do what's called geofencing, and they can put fences around things, around places that we don't want them. And there are a couple of those we're proposing that that the company, in addition to throttling the things down to 8 miles an hour, put a geofence around the playgrounds in Kleiner Park, Settlers Park, and Discovery Park. And then also geofence special use parks, which is Generations Plaza, City Hall Park, the plaza out here. So they won't work in there. So you get to the edge of that and it just kind of dies. Yeah. And also the tennis court complex at Settlers Park, because there's a pretty extensive sidewalk network in there, and we don't need conflicts with park users and pedestrians walking back and forth from the tennis courts to the restroom and stuff like that. And then the other thing that we're asking is that when they have their, they get charged up at night, and they have these folks that come around and pick them up, and they take them home and charge them, and then they redeploy them in the morning. We're asking that they redeploy those in one central location in parks, and that would be near a bike rack. Not in the bike rack, but near the bike rack. Those are generally, you know, have enough space around them to accommodate some scooters that are lined up, and that we would encourage users to do the same when they're done with them. It won't happen. They're gonna, when they're done with their ride, they're gonna, I mean, that's part of the beauty of it, is that you can just get off it and lock it up and you're done. So they're gonna kind of leave them scattered about, and I don't know, I mean, it's okay. I mean, if the playgrounds are geofenced and they leave one in the grass, I guess from an operational standpoint, we don't really care. We're asking that they don't block sidewalks or pathways, and that they leave at least 5 feet of clearance. That deals with a lot of the ADA issues that might come up. I think that's...
I do have a question. These are motorized?
They're electric motors.
They're electric?
Yeah.
So they are allowed on pathways?
Yeah, so with pathways, with our pathway network, we don't own the property. So we've talked to the irrigation district, who owns the properties, and they said that they don't view these any different than bicycles. So we can't specifically require a certain type of behavior on property that we don't own. And it's the same way with streets or other things. This only deals with property that we own.
Do we allow anything that is electric or motorized on our pathways? I thought there were signs. We do. Okay.
We do, yeah. We've been saying all along, as a kind of I don't know if it's written down, but we've been saying if it's gas powered, it's not allowed. If it's electric powered, it's allowed. Because then, I mean, that's, you know, if you have somebody that wants to ride their Barbie Jeep down a pathway, I mean, it's kind of,
okay,
you know,
fair.
there's a big...
Or a wheelchair.
I may have to
Yeah,
work
or
that
an
out.
electric wheelchair or scooter. I mean, it's...
Hard to start different.
So is that something that should be looked into, though, for maybe like a cap speed limit? Are there speed limit restrictions on pathways? Because just stating that electric is okay, I mean...
She can pedal.
I don't know, Tesla goes really fast and it's electric.
Yeah, well, that's a vehicle.
that kinda later down
That's
the-
street legal.
Right.
You know, it has a license plate, and that becomes a motor vehicle.
I'm just using it as
it's
like a
electric motor, but it's a
reference,
motor
yeah.
vehicle at that point, and those are not allowed.
Right. I'm just wondering if,
Yeah,
just if there is a weakness in the fence, probably someone will find it.
So, I think one of the attractions in Meridian that makes these desirable are our pathways.
Right.
Because honestly, it's not going to be much fun to ride down some of these streets.
No.
And if you can get on a pathway and you can go 8 or 9 miles, or maybe connect to the green belt and go to Boise on one of these,
Right.
kind of cool. So,
I'm not against them. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't some restriction, which I'm sure you guys have already been through it, but.
yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, we can look into to see if they can govern the speed on pathways. They might be able to. I don't know how finite they can be, or linear.
Not maybe specifically for the scooters, but if somebody had something else that was electric, like I know some of the bikes kind of have some options, but I wouldn't want somebody who could go, 35 miles an hour running into the back of me, or.
Yeah, so these will, technically they go 14.7. I wouldn't either. I mean, if somebody I've seen some electric bikes that go really fast.
Right. So I guess that's where my thought process is going.
Yeah. No,
right?
I
The
mean,
devil's advocate, always thinking of
they're,
the.
and if we did put a rule in place, then it would become an enforcement issue.
Correct.
And
that is true.
How do you?
Yeah, how do you enforce it if
How do
you
you enforce?
don't have?
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're going. Look at that's 30 miles an hour. And
Right.
Okay.
That's true.
I mean, you could try to find out where they live, I guess, but.
Good point.
Madam
hard.
President,
Yeah.
so I have a question and then maybe a comment or an idea. So, what was my, you mentioned, or did you say there's parks where they won't be allowed?
Madam President, no. So
Oh,
so,
you listed some parks and I didn't know if,
Right, so there's, they can put up a geofence around things, and we're proposing that the playgrounds at Kleiner, Settlers, and Discovery are geofenced, and then also the special use parks, which right now we only have 2 of them. It's City Hall Plaza and Generations Plaza downtown.
maybe Bark Park?
So the only place they could go would be the sidewalk
Around the Bark Park? I don't know if we'd.
inside
to-
the Bark Park. Yeah.
Might
Great
want to
idea.
leave that off, you know.
Love it. Yep.
'Cause I don't mind.
Awesome. Good.
So with that, but along those same lines, what about at movie night?
Oh.
Or any big event at any of the parks, and all of a sudden we've got people, even at 8 miles an hour, zipping around on electric scooters.
Well, that does.
And to me, it's a common sense and a politeness thing, but we know there's a lot of dingbats out there, and is there a way that we can say on certain nights, use your ability to just not allow them in Kleiner Park on this day? They just stop working at the edge, or I don't know. But that's what's in my head is certain days, certain events, certain times, they don't work, or they're not allowed, or something. Or tell them you have to come pick them up and not have them in the park that day. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
that's
a thought.
Madam President, Keith, that's great thought. I think that's excellent. So even if they weren't dropped off like at movie night, people would ride to movie night, and
Right to the events also, so maybe, I don't know if you can put the fence deeper inside, but they're gonna ride those
Yeah.
scooters to the event and back, you
Yeah.
know, and so they gotta get at least close enough to where they'll have a place to park it.
Yeah.
Just
So-
not in the interior of the park.
I love it. Great point, and we'll look into what their capabilities are as far as blocking out days where the whole park is, if they can put calendar events in certain parks and then geofence it for that day or that block of hour. We'll look into it. That's a great point. Thank you.
Madam President, have you thought about limiting the speed limit in your downtown core where you got lots of driveways? Because I don't see it to be an issue with pathways, because you don't have any motorized transactions, but for instance, my facility where I have driveways where there's limited, but, and there's lots of them, Idaho Independent Bank, there's lots of driveways where people aren't going to see, and I see the issue is you don't have to have a driver's license. You got uneducated to motor vehicle law, people riding them. It's not like you went out and bought a $400 scooter and you made it, it's like you got $2 on a debit card and you can go have fun. And I think you're going to kill somebody if you don't at least maybe limit your speed where you see a lot of motor vehicle transactions, like your downtown core. I mean, there's a lot of old school driveways and that kind of stuff where people are going to be backing out and you're going to squish a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
Just my
that's
thought.
great point. So I think that would be something to look into on the ordinance side. And because right now, technically, you're supposed to be 18.
You can't police that.
Bird requires that you scan your driver's license and then your card. So they kind of regulate that. Lime doesn't. You're 10 years old and you have a debit card, you can rent a Lime scooter.
Right.
So, excellent point. That's more on the ordinance side, and Emily's nodding.
Just didn't
like,
know, you said you
like,
could potentially speed limit
Yeah.
parks. You could potentially put areas of high, where
Downtown
they've got a lot of motor vehicles that, business
Yeah.
locations like the Village I mean, there's people going around everywhere. You might want to just slow them down a little bit. That's all I'm thinking. If you can put pockets that you just slow them down, because I've seen them cruising along at 15. It doesn't seem very fast until you're walking beside it or you're driving beside it, and they're moving pretty quick, especially in high-density areas.
Yep, that's great. What else?
All I got.
Good?
I think we kind of got it. Thank you for
Exhausted
the
it a
feedback.
little bit.
That's
Thank
No,
you
that's
for
really good. Thank you.
standing
Kind
up
of a
there
long way to
and
get
letting
around.
us,
letting us
throw.
that's cool. Thank you. Appreciate
Throw
it.
things at you. Appreciate it, Mike. Okay, so moving on, we now have the Pathways workshop, which I think we can go get. Can we get treats now? Commissioner Steele brought treats, and they're in the other room, along with the cookies from.
Madam President?
Yes.
I do have a very short PowerPoint. We
Oh.
could have a treat and come back and do PowerPoint and then workshop, or I could just run through that kind of quickly as an introduction, and then we could have a break before the workshop part. Your choice.
Let's get a treat and come back, because I really want some hot chocolate. So we'll be right back. And then you can prepare, but you come get a treat too.
And just so you know, because we don't have the ability to pause the streaming, it will continue to stream. And for anyone watching, we'll just be back in 5 minutes.
We'll be back quickly.
We need a little
good
message.
sign, right? Yes. We'll just quickly go get treats.
Gained 3.2 ounces.
Well, these workshops.
Yeah. Workshop, subcommittee, whatever.
Oh, it's a Nova Scotia Colony retreat.
Holy moly.
They're a paramedic. We went to every park and every.
Oh, yeah, I remember you told me that, yeah.
So they're small, and they've got the white markings.
Right.
It's one of those things where spaniel, but then the body shape. That's why the fur is more golden.
I like that.
And when they get bigger, they look like a miniature golden. They have white splotches, basically. I have watching National Dog Show. No, sporting.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Oh, yes, thank you. Go right
Madam
ahead.
Commissioner, are we ready to start? I didn't know if there was a formal beginning, but I'm
I-
happy to just go.
I think everybody's back, so without further ado.
Okay, so I was here last month with a high-level overview, and we decided to do a more specific examination of some key areas. I think you did, as part of the packet, get an advanced series of maps in case any of you wanted to check out some of those areas in person. So quickly, I'm going to go through, we had a Pathways workshop, not quite of this kind, but in March of 2018. So I will give a quick update, and again, this was in your packet also. In terms of projects, they were organized in not so much priority as according to type. So were they constructing pathway sorts of projects, or did they have more to do with procedures and process? So 5 Mile Creek was a priority. We did complete the Linder Sidewalk Widening project, part of 5 Mile Creek, just south of Ustick and connecting to Tully Park. James Court sidewalk widening. We had 3 elusive landowners that we couldn't quite find to ask for easements. We did track them down, requested easements. They said, no, we don't want to give you one, but they did want to sell easements. So we generated some legal offers and have presented those to all the property owners. And so I've heard back from the 2 individuals that one is interested, and that the other, we've had some action. They had their attorney review it. So with 2 of those, I'm hopeful that we can have something back by the 15th of December. Essentially, we're offering to pay them just to use a small piece of their property. So it seems like a pretty good deal, and it definitely has moved things along. The 3rd property at Meridian Road is slightly more complicated in terms of ownership, so that might take a little bit longer, but we do have an owner's representative and are in conversation. So number 3, and also I indicated stars just to show projects that are more, I guess some of the lower priorities haven't been worked on as directly or as recently. So the stars, I guess, would indicate more recent activity. So I talked about James Court, the 5 Mile Pathway connection at Fairview Avenue. And I think we all saw that during our Pathways tour. There's that stretch on Fairview where it is separated by a small curve, but it doesn't feel particularly friendly. It connects Lakes Place to the new H2 pathway. So we have a meeting set up with ACHD to talk about, we've contacted ACHD to talk about the parcels and what's possible there. They think there's room within the right-of-way to actually do what we want to do in terms of articulating more clear pedestrian access. So we have contacted a landscape architecture firm with a surveyor to start looking at those properties along Fairview so we can do a cost estimate and come back with a budget amendment request. So a little bit of action, some groundwork. Rail with Trail projects, I talked about that a little bit, the Rail with Trail group. On the local level, our small project west of City Hall, we've been trying to trade a piece of property for a property that the Friends of Children and Family organization holds, and we've been asking and working with them for about a year, and they did finally hear from their governing body, and they said we need a little more information from you. They wanted level 1 environmental assessments and formal appraisals, which made sense. So we had those done. They seemed to be in favor of the trade. Nothing really surfaced that in terms of value or any potential hazards that would hold anything up. So that information has been passed on, and we're hopeful that we will hear soon. And once that's done, we can pursue construction of that project. Number 6, the Greenbelt, of course, always a priority, and I spoke to some of the interagency coordination efforts that happen at least monthly in terms of conversation and planning and discussion. Not a lot of work for me day-to-day on that directly. The Limp-Larkwood pathway, I got to meet John's wife, Valerie, and that neighborhood is going to have an entry improvement. It still needs a fence and it still needs paving. Luckily, we have a fence contractor who's been really agreeable, and so because of the neighborhood improvement and some adjustments that the homeowners association wanted to make and our willingness to just want to put a fence in between the pathway and the neighborhood, that's getting delayed, but the contractor was willing to keep the contract open, and it's good because then things can kind of happen in normal order of construction, and we were trying to force the fence and do it out of order just to get done. So that's moving forward. Another nuts and bolts project, the Blackstone segment of 10 Mile Creek near our recently acquired Fuller Park, was just a quick fix. That's been done, some slight realignment and paving improvements. So not a lot of action on signage. We are working really hard on the GIS pathways map. In fact, the Meridian Comp Plan has catalyzed some help from one of the other departments on that because those planners want to look at sidewalks and connectivities. So we're getting close. I'm making updates. And our goal would be to come back with formal changes for adoption early in next year. So the cut sheets and the pathways information and other process documents they're kind of pending out in the future. And we've had a couple of situations where contractors have built within irrigation district easements without permission. So I continue to reword our conditions of approval documents to be very explicit in terms of what's required if you're going to build a pathway in an irrigation district easement. But aside from that, so I think that we don't have a formal ranking system set up for this. We're not looking for a vote, but it might be a chance to brainstorm just a few ideas for new improvements, and then also I think coming out of our workshop, there might be some ideas in terms of a few things we could add to the list. I also have some ideas if you want me to start it off, so, or we can revisit that after the work session.
Madam President, I think it sounds like we need to do the work session next.
Okay.
And then get started, and we'll be knee-deep in this and be able to come from that
let me
if we
just
need to make changes.
Move through a bit. So I think you saw this before, and in your packet, there were 4 areas I presented last time. The area, whoops, I don't know what that was. Up in the north, down off the bench, Black Cat, Aldapi Park, Boise River Greenbelt connections. There's the new Owyhee High School. We were looking at 10 Mile Crossing and the South Valley. And then I think the mayor requested that we talk about segment D between the wastewater treatment plant, 10 Mile and Black Cat Roads, and discuss alignment with you on that one. And then also we ended up in a discussion about Settlers Park and some connectivity there. So let's just break off. I have these printed. So I have large maps that do not have aerial photographs, and I have large maps that do. And then I have specific maps at a scale that shows a little more detail for the areas identified. I just wanted to remind you, I brought the Parks Master Plan, which is our guiding document, the Pathways Master Plan. But the general, in fact, I really wanted to make us all a t-shirt for this meeting that would have this funny sort of walking loop graphic on it, because I have ideas about using it as an element. But yeah, we're really focusing on a Meridian loop, kind of around and throughout the city, and then the canals are the elements. 5 Mile Creek in the north. We've got 10 Miles, another big one, Breidenbaugh in the south. These aren't named specifically, but this is sort of a basic conceptual framework for how we're trying to build out this system or prioritize the system. So keep that in mind just as we work. Also, on the map that does not have aerial photographs, I did draw in some of these loops just by hand, color-coded, so you can kind of see where the Meridian loop is. Sometimes the Meridian loop and the 5 Mile Creek pathway, they're both in certain spots. The loop will kind of use segments of various pathways. So, and just one more comment, I guess, on workshops. I do think it's good to talk frequently about this. Meridian is not a huge city in terms of population, but it's a big area. I mean, I've been looking at maps and pathways in person and all of this for more than a year, and I still feel like, I mean, it's hard to stay on top of it if you don't revisit it and discuss it in detail, at least periodically. So I think that's a good thing. Okay, I think we can look specifically at segment D. We'll just use this for reference if we need to. Emily or Rachel, is there anything about, I guess we'll be streaming, is there anything specific we need to know about participating their microphones there, but this kind of a workshop format versus a formal presentation?
Madam Chair, Kim, it's I spoke briefly with Steve about it, and it's just not an ideal setup for streaming, so just be loud and we'll do our best. I think that's all we can do right now.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
It's meant to be a little less formal and encourage discussion. I know there'll be people talking over each other a little bit, but just know that it is being recorded. But even so, I think it's good to get you down off the dais, be able to come down a little less formal, stand around a map, point, talk, and draw with some markers, and have more of a workshop setting. That's the goal.
Yeah, so I did bring markers, and feel free to use them on any of the maps. I brought stickies if that's an easier way to sort of layer things on. I didn't mean to preempt you, Commissioner, if you had a comment.
On these, yeah, what's the difference in the two legends?
Let's look at the legends down during the workshop, if that's okay. I think that will be most clear, and I'll explain that before we go any further. Ready to go? So if we're looking at this, all the green is what was approved. Those aren't similar. Yeah, so to answer Commissioner Bevan's question, it's not as relevant on this map, but formerly proposed pathways, the adopted layer, the layer that's already been approved, has been shaded back a little bit, and it's wider, generally speaking. It doesn't show as well on here, but on one of these other ones. And then the darker pathway line there, or this smaller red line in lieu of this proposed green line. So anything that's solid and narrow is part of our working layer that we're talking about now, and anything that's hazed back and wider is already adopted, excepting this sort of golden yellow, which are proposed routes that really aren't on anything much yet, and we feel like we need to capture. So let's start with this one just to go in a rough order. So this is, it's our blue dot up here to the northwest. This is the proposed, well, I guess some of this is existing, but Highway 16 that will connect to I-84. What was happening, so Chinden State Highway 2026, there were some development plans proposed here, and this development is starting to get to a point where this road's going to get built out. So down off the bench, we have the opportunity to access a future park, and I think the master street map, which is not on here, does suggest that there'll be vehicular access down off the edge of the bench and across the Phyllis Canal, and I got thinking we need a pathway up here to our future park. Future park has changed configuration slightly since the big flood year, but it's quite far north on the river, and so we have the opportunity to go both ways out of the park. We also have an opportunity to go under the highway alongside the Phyllis Canal, which will get us connecting further west anywhere we have a chance to grade separate from a
Have you
big
seen
roadway.
if there's, is there room to go under that underpass?
Seems like
There is.
I think there is. I don't know my source on that, but I
haven't been out there.
There's plenty of overpass there.
So anyway, I think because it wasn't on our master plan, I conditioned an easement, but not pathway construction there. So we'll have the property to go north when that time comes, or we'll have access. But that was a need I saw. And then just in general, we talk about connecting north. Let's just go to this. So this is our map that has the Meridian loop kind of drawn on, and in slightly greater detail. So I can see that maybe we have a north Meridian loop that would get us to the river. We wouldn't need to call it that. But I think there's a potential to do that if we can get down here, and then Linder and Locust Grove are identified connections north as it is. So that's kind of my thinking in terms of the opportunity down off the bench.
Yeah, that would be, this loop is so, you've got a nice connection right there.
Right, and I just
That's
didn't.
low-hanging fruit.
I just didn't throw it on because it is identified on the
And
plan.
it would connect into your.
And it is part of the map already. So.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up,
Somehow we need to
but
figure
yes.
out how to get that built, because that would be another way to, I mean, that's awesome. Well, it'd be multiple.
Well, I think that area is just
Linder
waiting for development. It's going to be developed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
There's just a challenge because of that narrow.
Over on this,
deal
so
going.
the proposed approved was before all the flooding. But now that we have the flooding, we're saying not just go here, we want to go around this.
Well, I think so much of the proposed was sort of like, let's just get from here to here, and it was very roughly drawn. And so,
So
as,
this would get us into Adelphi Park and out of, is what
yeah,
we're thinking.
that was
So
kind of
that's
the thought
loop.
is, ponds will probably need to be restored, but the idea would be an east-west connection.
So you could go in one end of the park, go all the way through the
more
park,
along
and be
that.
back out on our pathways.
Yeah, that
heading
might
off
happen
somewhere.
more along the, we might want to do something like that too, although I don't know what our option is here to get under, but, definitely the river corridor and then the pathway through the park. That maybe.
Oh, so there is an underpass here that we could add to, just like we did there, so they wouldn't have to
Is
come
there?
down?
Yep.
So that's a,
I don't know if you can get access through there, but there is an overpass right there. A lot of the highway is overpass because they had to build it up so high.
Well, it's
Yeah.
much better to go underneath than try to go on that,
But
like, up there.
The yellow line for me, if you look at the green and in the flood, the yellow line keeps you a little bit out of the risk of, obviously if it floods again, that's going to be underwater, but the yellow path presents opportunity to where this pathway could still be usable. If it floods again, you're never going to be able to use anything along this green area.
And I remember doing, as a design consultant, the concept for that park, or preliminary concept, and even in its original configuration, there was almost nowhere to put a structure because it was either floodplain or flooded road.
Yeah, this gives you
So,
some protection from
yeah.
from the flood area.
Yeah, and just some, yeah, definitely for that east-west connection, it would be nice to have.
And if you want to take your family down to visit the park, and I think that'll be a challenging piece, is to get people to that park because of its location. The direct path, like this one, the shortest route, is to get it in there, and you can come right back out there for those folks that live on that side of town.
Can you get in there today?
You can't drive there today. This road comes off of Linder, but
Don't make it
doesn't.
You know what it makes me kind of think of is how Eagle Island Park is kind of off the beaten path.
It's very similar.
But, you know, at one point it was very far north and probably way out of the way for a lot of people, but this is kind of a similar, where it's kind of nice because it is a little bit off to the side.
Another point of perspective, this Jaker Way is a public road, but it is
Yes.
here. From here on, it's private and part of this farm. But eventually, this will become potentially the most direct route here. But but where that public road will go is currently unknown. But that will be a major connection to that.
Yeah, the people in that neighborhood are going to raise a stink.
Yeah. Unless
this
it's
I know who they are.
beginning.
In this city?
They were upset when, the construction
Oh,
trucks
you mean
were
going
coming.
through here?
They're going to be
Spurring.
upset if you're going to make that a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Oh, our kids are going to get run over.
Right, it's just like how Locust Grove is right now, where they're all bunched up and everybody on either side of Locust Grove is complaining that, Locust Grove is now Eagle Road.
I think you want option with that, with your line up there following the other green one, when you're really connecting to the
This
community of Star, if you're going out that way,
Yeah.
would,
I'm writing upside down.
is, that would be
That's one of the
an
commission
agency
goals.
that we need to probably reach out to and talk to and see what their pathway plan is to come. Because if their pathway plan is clear down here by the river, if they can get to it, then that right there may
Wanna
be.
in alignment.
may
So
not be
now
in
these guys
alignment.
have Meridian addresses. Is that now part of Star?
Oh.
Well, so the boundary is unique there. Utilities are unique there. Like Fred Meyer at Eagle Island, the water and the sewer there is Eagle, but they have Meridian zip codes. So it's a unique boundary around that area.
Because I know a lot of these homes that are in here, these are all Meridian addresses.
Sure.
And I guess I'm thinking, development is proposed down here, and development will likely happen. I don't, care so much.
Like an interject,
Who it is, yeah. But I'd like to get across
Just
that
about
bridge
that,
later.
the addresses are based on the post office that delivers the mail, which could be Meridian, but it's
Right.
actually physically in Star. It's the same way with voter registration. It gets weird. I was looking at for 10 years, and we had addresses that they were physically lived in Pennsylvania, but their mail was delivered by a post office in Maryland or New York,
Oh, wow.
and their address was Maryland,
Right.
but they physically were in Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
Yeah, it would be neat.
So even more than
Kim, to
Star
see
and
what the
Meridian,
development
it's
ideas from
because
Star coming
their address had to
east.
be that zip code.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of times I've used that as the impact.
Yeah, but
area
it
for
gets
Star.
confusing out there.
Like
so.
Cuna
Yeah.
is similar.
Yeah.
You know, and they've really
Yeah.
had to, with Cuna and Meridian, they've really had to work those boundaries, and that's why Cuna's right outside our back door of the new park. So.
Right.
Yeah, and then, between federal and state and county and city, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's confusing.
So I'd just point out real quick on the STAR question, I've actually walked part of STAR's pathway system, and it's the part that I know of is on the north side of the channel up here. I mean, it's further down. It doesn't exist through this area, but it's on the developed pathway that they have today is on the north side of the channel.
So then we definitely want to look in more to this thing right there to at least get us closer to that.
Or even here, depending on.
Doing both.
Is it clear down by Floating
This
Feather,
would be to the people up here, and this would be to the.
where that cemetery is, and the school they built, the new middle school?
I can't remember if it's Star, well, no, not Floating Feather, but where the Boise River crosses, I think, Star Road.
Yeah.
There's that diversion dam right there, and they've got a pathway. I don't know how
That's fun.
far
Put a note for you
back
for
towards
diversion
Meridian it
dam.
goes, but I've walked part of it.
to find out where the
In all
pathway
this
starts.
discussion, what involvement does Ada County have? Because I assume that, is that the blue line that's outside of Meridian? I mean, I'm assuming that
is our boundary.
that there's land out there that's not Meridian or Star, right? It's Ada County. So, I mean, it'd be cool to have a connected path from here to Star, but if it's across really county land, well, can we get county to
The
help?
group that's coordinating the Boise River pathway across all jurisdictions is FACTS.
Yeah. And that's the group that is doing some good work, I think, and with larger landowners in Eagle on the north side of the river where, the ask is kind of
Ultimately, I have a
delicate.
question about coordination.
Yeah, so there is an organization out there, and we've had them here and present, but it's been years. It sounds like it's probably ripe for inviting them back and asking them, hey, how about the connection between Meridian and Star? How does that work in their perspective?
And I know they're always looking for board members too, so it's a one Wednesday a month, 3 to 5 kind of meeting.
And they pay.
And they pay really well. No, there are a lot of jokes and puns, but so that'd be, I might not be involvement you're interested in, but it would be an option.
Do we?
Facts.
Yeah, basically you're paid for this thing when you hit 20 years.
Rachel, is that something that you could get information? Could Rachel get that
0 is
information?
still zero.
Yeah.
Steve, do we know whether Star or are we as a city considering annexing these areas yet? If they are county?
There's no proposals yet.
There's no proposals yet? Okay. Would there be an incentive for either city to do so that would kind of assist us in making it a more, smoother process?
We have to wait for the availability of utilities and roads. I mean, there's no
Development.
I think they'd love to develop
Driven by
there,
developers.
but there's not.
Got it.
I don't know if you know the sewer or water system out there, but
It's in that area.
yeah.
The utilities are coming into right here, so as long as Brighton or whomever starts to keep going that way. But they are building the new Alquest group. He's building a hospital type of facility out there, so utilities will be out there.
Wow.
So Kim, where's the Phyllis Canal? Is that on this one?
Phyllis Canal is at the bottom of the
That's that,
bench.
so would we follow that?
Yeah, I don't know about
It's
the
a neat canal
Phyllis.
too, right there on the
yeah.
bottom of the bench there, or at
it's,
the top of the bench, isn't it? How does that one run?
It's
I don't.
It's at the bottom of the bench right there.
I don't know, it's a different one, I think.
It's a neat
Yeah.
canal.
Yeah, no, it really is. I guess I was thinking primarily north to the park, but.
I mean, that gets you all the way over to Linder and without trying to get
Yeah,
flooded and.
so that's down on the bottom of the canal, because you
Because
can
the bridge
kind of
over
see the
this.
lip, Steve. So yeah, that would be an interesting, because that is a really big
It's a
unused.
major canal like
Is
the
that on
ride
like Boise projects? Is that like a
We were
bigger?
just.
No,
saying we
it's, I think it's
maybe
Farmers Union,
Oh.
but,
Gosh.
and we've never talked to them.
Yeah, because that's.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably time to
So-
say, hey, you're kind of crossing through Meridian, what do you think?
Make a connection.
What do you think? It might be
That'd be
a
great.
good, productive phone call to make sure.
Take some scones.
When,
Yeah.
Phone's good.
Where
Hot
is this
chocolate.
connecting at after this?
So
get 'em
this
during the
is
busy season.
Linder, and
This
then.
does already, we already have the
No,
proposed.
because
and
these are
everything?
just,
everything
we're
done
just
all the way
proposed that we
There's a-
get over to Linder.
There was a recruit for that, to get it?
It was, yes, approved, but as you can see, drawn in very roughly, just sort of
Right.
like, yeah.
just following the river on the
Yeah.
south side.
I just wanted to know where we were.
Yeah,
Just wanted to know
so
where the
we,
connection is on the other side.
yeah, so if we look a little.
Oh, okay.
So here's the bench, right?
So what we just talked about was not going all the way up
Yeah,
and
so here's
going
the
up here,
proposed, and-
and then going up and going out and connecting to the park, but not going that way up.
No, yeah, we would go this way, and then there'd probably be that minor.
Connects that, is that what you were thinking?
Oh, so like
Wherever
a
Jake
separate,
is.
you
But
can
it's
take the
just
canal or go up towards.
Canal crossing is a real,
I just want to see, before Craig points it out that it's not an arrow, this is that high desire route to get up to Eagle Island State Park.
Yeah, because the park's right over here, because the temple's right over here.
Yeah.
do they have any Just, I know they were gonna expand 10 Mile, but is there any plans to work on Linder?
Yes.
I thought
Yeah, I was gonna say
Linder
yes.
has one coming soon, right?
As far as
You
couple
stick
of years.
to,
Chinden?
you
No.
stick to Chinden is gonna happen.
in Linder when we have a lot of residential.
Yeah. Well, not this.
So is there gonna
Oh,
be
not that
any
section.
road?
Oh,
They
from
said
Houston
these
up,
two.
okay,
Is
understood.
there gonna be any road that is a complete like 4-lane all the way through from?
That's what they're all supposed to
Station
be.
and Highway 16?
Wow.
Because they all bottleneck or something.
Well, Linder.
Yeah.
So Linder's gonna be the first one.
They all do right now. They're all supposed to be.
It'd only be 4 lanes from
So
Houston.
just like little.
You'd have to look at the ACHD's
Kim, what's the
5-year
plan
plan,
on
and it would
this?
show you, but Meridian Road is like in 2 or 3 years.
I made
Wow.
some
Well,
contacts
10
with
Then you can
ITD
connect.
folks, there's another
Everywhere.
area
10
to
miles
to
gonna
get
go from-
across.
If you think
Well,
about
because
it,
we have
They-
this to worry about.
balloon that
Well,
up.
from
Yeah,
Mystic to
exactly.
McMillan,
That's
and
our
then
next
Costco
sheet.
going in,
So
they're gonna
I
widen from
know that
McMillan
they
to
have
Chinden.
So where's Costco gonna go?
The one over there.
Right about there, okay.
Right.
And so
we're-
this,
sorry,
this,
that's McMillan.
this section of road's gonna be
They won't really serve
widened
any more
really
of a
soon,
dinosaur.
which is where we're
I
doing
haven't seen
the
specific plans, I know.
That's where the
the
park-
trailhead.
That's where the trailhead,
The
by
trailhead,
wastewater
right
treatment
here.
plant's right
Right.
there.
But I did
And then with
think
Costco
we're gonna-
going in, they're this section's gonna get widened
instead
as
of
well.
being an overpass
So
like
that'll be,
this,
once
was
that
going
gets
to
done,
be
what,
a
10 Mile will
highway.
be 5 lanes the entire
Here in
I think it's
Julia.
from Houston.
No, no,
Yeah.
because that's,
And again,
that's,
maybe that would have.
right, no, that's where I live right now, is that 10-mile pine area, so I was wondering how that would affect us. Yeah. Oh, no.
2 miles.
Right.
You guys have 1 year.
Mike, you know the 10-mile road improvements, they go all the way from Mystic to Chinden, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, to keep us focused and to
Yeah.
try and get
Sure.
through what we need to do, I'm going to suggest, we do have 6 separate areas to talk about. And so this is number 1. So if we can focus there, we can move on to the next one and the next one and the next one and just.
Do you have what you need,
Everybody
Kim,
good?
on that one?
I think so, yeah, that's just a note for Joe, but facts info for greater connection. Consider floodway in that location.
And look at the canal.
Phyllis
We
Canal,
can connect
has
with them,
potential.
see if we
has
can use
potential.
their,
Yeah.
use their right of way, or if not, we could require people to develop outside the fence.
Star
because it's light
interface.
water.
On facts, would you just add a note to invite them to an upcoming meeting?
Yes.
So that we don't forget that?
That'd be well.
The one that was Friday? No.
January or February or
Okay.
March. when I get off on this.
It's during the day, you don't have to see people.
They're very jovial, like it's a fun group. Okay, anything else to comment?
Could you fix that mic, please? It's sitting
Whitehair High School, so the new high school, this was the one that the mayor wanted us to make sure that we, because we have no pathways
So
for the high school.
correct.
She made a point. Yes.
Yeah, it's out over here, so also interfacing with this proposed State Highway 16. This is the Oaks development, so you can see what was proposed, and that's happened a slightly different way with the 10-foot pathway up to McMillan. It's really nicely done. So, you know, we have these rough lines, and then provided we get our access here, we have another one heading north. We were aiming at getting, this being an overpass, over the highway, and so that was the goal with requiring this pathway. I just heard in a plan review meeting that this may be the overpass, that the highway may stay high, which would be kind of cool for the pathway on McMillan. There's also a canal, like it will need to bridge the canal, and I don't think there'll be room for pathway there. So we're working this route up and over.
So you're saying Highway 16 might go over McMillan as opposed to McMillan
Going
over
over,
Highway 16?
yeah. So that was just what the ITD folks said
Yes.
in a plan review meeting last week.
Well,
So
and remember the pockets of money. McMillan's a different pocket of money than the highway is. That's the state.
Yeah.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So
think
where's
it'd
the
be
high
great
school
for the
at
city.
here?
So
Where
the
does it
high
face? Is this
school,
where you come in?
Steve, if you don't mind, I think I've got some plans.
So where's the park? Not to confuse this with our future park.
John, am I?
It's off of here.
Yeah,
it's off of
High
Cherry.
school,
And then there's our park site.
Yeah.
so
I
it's
think we all
basically a
should,
mile and a quarter mile and a half away.
Should
so
consider
it's like right.
pathway connections to this park.
Definitely. We've got this bit of future Meridian Loop and then.
So are we
I think
gonna
the
stay
5 mile.
on this canal then?
But just make sure that we can connect.
Well, as it stands now, because we thought that McMillan would be the overpass, we required, in fact, there'll be pathway constructed up that will go up and over. So for now, the requirement is for pathway to come. So if this is the, let's see.
So there's a canal here.
We have
We also
kids,
have here.
yeah, because we have kids leaving.
When we
right?
have a C here, right? Go up
Oh,
and
sorry, I
down.
didn't mean to put you there. Right, because if you have people coming from subdivisions, then.
Once this
The way this is
gets
drawn, this is a loop
Oh,
right
this
here.
is the proposed, okay.
So this is the high school site here, right? And she-
Yeah, so this is the high school site. So there's properties along McMillan that aren't
Not part of
being
it.
developed. There's a,
Roughly like that.
yeah, and then the
Right.
high school's kind of here, and there's a property back here that's odd. There's an elementary school property in here. This is, none of this is to scale. And then there's a Gander Creek development. So to get the high school approved, they actually ended up working with the developer to get a mid-mile collector road. And I
And does
just,
your line is very specific, does it follow
Um,
that mid-mile collector proposed?
so
I'm
it was
surprised it jogs
specific
like
at a
that.
certain point in the development discussion where there's a diversion feature here, and there's like a canal and a feeder canal, and they didn't want to deal with bridging this, but now I think they will do that, the Gander Creek developer. I do think it will, it was just an earlier, oops, that table is sinking. I don't think it will go. But it probably will be more straight, Steve. It just, at
So
one
you-
point, they were going to
you
do
can
something
connect
here.
this over.
Yeah, kind of like what they did through the Oaks, where it had a little bit, I thought it might be more like that. Did it be straighter? So 10-foot pathway. There was some discussion at one point, do we follow there was a canal. Oh, it had a great name, the Pilot, the Sky Pilot lateral. It ended up getting piped, but we were going to follow that, and I ended up saying, no, I think it's better to go out to Ustick and get up and over.
So what kind of space do we have along either Ustick or McMillan to put in a pathway?
I think up, we have what we can do with the ACHD roadway, which is usually up to 7 feet, maybe more. I know that because this hasn't been widened yet, they did ask about getting, they got told no on the pathway easement in one of the plan review meetings. So I don't know how much room we have there.
Well, that's going to determine a lot of what we can do.
You need it where the on and
pathway.
off ramp is.
I think the goal would be to get it on the adopted map so that when because these properties aren't annexing, right?
They are annexing, and
annexing?
so because they're annexing, and we got to do a development agreement, even though it's not on the plan, I said, we really need to connect
Yeah.
5 Mile Creek
So
to.
did you did we get
we
enough
did-
room for an easement
got
or
a-
right of way for
yeah,
10 feet?
We got a 10-foot pathway all the way to here. We got one up to here, and then for the other developer, we'll get this, and I don't know how they're gonna work this out. We've asked for it, so.
Okay, but we're back into,
But they're required to
now
do
we've
a
got
10-foot.
this piece, and we've got already building going on here.
Mhm.
So we still have two pretty big chunks here that we're gonna have to figure out to keep that 10-foot pathway.
This is already existing, actually.
What is already existing?
This red one?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so the red is existing.
So it's already built.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
10-foot.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Out in the Oaks and Oaks
He's
West.
connected.
I've been out to the Oaks before, I know where.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have.
Is it paved?
Yeah, it's a nice path.
Yeah, and I
When is it
think
going to
that, let's
create a
look at our,
So, oh,
This is not improved yet, so. that
yeah,
would
so
be-
if it's not developed, I mean, as soon as they come in with a plan, we
This
can
is
say,
pathway.
but maybe we need to get, looks like we've got that on there. I'm used
they
to
built
it.
they
Right here.
put like $3 million.
Yeah, it's
So
proposed.
it's 600.
So then,
10-foot path.
let's see here. So this is here already then.
The red is
Back to here.
existing. Yep, it's a 10-foot
So how do we
pathway.
connect that to here?
So there's a treatment plant.
Yeah, this is the other thing we need
This
to
is the
talk
other
about.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say let's finish focusing here, and then we'll jump over to connect that, because that is where we're going next.
So yeah, I think the story on this is that, I did say we need to connect north-south. And gotten that in the plans and as part of the approvals process. So we do want to be thinking further. We want to be thinking ultimately to not Borat Bottles, West Meridian Regional Park for now.
Sure, same place, but yes.
It will always be Borat Bottles to me. And then, yeah, definitely
So
these
if
connections.
I can draw, just
Please
to,
do.
just to point out what I'm seeing. This connection up from the Borat Bottles property is this right here. And this comes up to U-Stick. The idea is to create a loop that would go along U-Stick, up past the high school, and whether it does this or
Probably
straight
go
up.
straight, yeah.
Cross Highway 16. This is already existing back to the freeway. And so you got that loop going on. This is also existing, and then this is part of the actual Meridian loop, right? That would continue on.
This essentially is
Oh, yeah.
that, as
Yes.
proposed, so to come up north, and it jogged over. This is a
yeah,
nice
so it's
10-foot
over here.
pathway, but
It's that.
yeah. So, so this didn't really happen quite in
Right.
that way, but yeah,
But
part of
this
the
did.
part of the Meridian
Right.
loop. Yep. In fact, yeah, right there.
So, okay.
So yeah, I think it's yeah, and all this is happening
Does that help to?
to relate.
So now,
Okay,
you
any
just
other-
need to get over from 10 Mile and then figure out how to connect 5 Mile Creek to, how are we gonna?
Yeah.
That's the next one.
So this was our perilous crossing on our bike tour. So
Yes,
everyone
someone
said,
"No,
we all
don't
survived.
go."
So is that
Everybody go.
So this is 10 Mile, which is getting
I was sitting
widened.
in a
Our
truck right there
trailhead
in
is
my Explorer. I
right
didn't have
here.
any problems at all.
Because you blew a tire. We didn't have our tires stationed yet.
I do want to follow the creek, but I was told by ITD that, you know, there'd be room here if we want to connect. But they're probably, like, I think because
To
they're,
get their maintenance vehicles under there.
I think if they're up here, yeah, I don't know if we could probably, yeah, share
They-
maintenance. If
they
the
have
district
to-
requires it, then we ought to, there will be a connection. And I suggested to this developer
Condition
that,
that.
yeah, why would you?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
because they have to get, they have to leave that high end, this has to be high enough to get a truck and equipment underneath
Do you think, or
Oh,
would?
no,
I don't think they were
I would
sure
think,
if it
because
was
it dead
maybe a
ends on both sides of
culvert
the
or.
freeway at the interstate.
What
And
does?
it's just the canals, 10 Mile Creek, for example.
Part of what we have, I think if we've got a structure
can't
going
do that
over
by
McMillan, then it's hard to get, do you stay up
This is 5 Mile.
also for the
It
canal?
continues downstream,
Yeah.
This is the
So-
canal.
so they gotta
Where 5 Mile
maintain
crosses
that.
the freeway, dead ends on one side, goes underneath. They have to come to it from both sides. They can't go under the freeway. To continue their maintenance
The
road.
pipe.
Yeah, there was some talk of maybe a
Oh.
culvert, because I definitely had designs on it, let's get
Oh,
under
okay.
there. But I think part of it is if you're up over the road here, do you stay high with your structure all the way over that, which is
Yeah.
expensive?
If it does stay
Yeah.
high,
Or do you
then
go
make a lot of
down
sense
and
to
then
do
that.
engineer,
Yeah.
how do you like my
I
profile?
think it's
Yeah.
perfect, but
Um,
they're gonna have to sort that out, I think.
Yeah, and
As long
this,
as you get a seat at the table, that's all you
this
need.
seemed unlikely, but I did.
I mean, for the sake of putting it on our maps, is it worthwhile putting it on the map and
I
knowing
think-
that, you know, it's
Not
either
that.
gonna go here
Yeah.
or here?
I think
Is
we
that-
should do that because,
Just condition it that way, just,
Yeah, I like that.
it's not gonna hurt.
no,
And then at least we're
Until they tell us to
actively,
take it off.
at least they just won't.
Or they
brush it
provide a
aside.
solution if they don't want it there, here's an alternative
Yeah,
solution.
yeah.
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 Well, and I don't mind, I mean, that isn't really, if there's any kind of way to get across, even if it's not a formal part of the system, you know, it's a better amenity for the neighborhood if they can
Yeah, get
have a
out,
loop.
get away from
Yeah.
traffic.
So, okay.
Yep.
Do you think anything else, okay, to say on this side of this one? So our segment D, 5 Mile Creek, we've talked about this alignment a lot. So if you remember from our Pathways tour, this was the crossing from the 5 Mile Creek pathway. This is the trailhead. We rode down this pathway and there was a big there was a lot of rough fill dirt between here and the 5 Mile Creek. And then.
Right here's where I picked up about 50 goat heads.
Oh, is that it? Yeah.
I went off trail, like I should
Finger
have.
punching arm movie. Anyway, the pathway loops around and we took a dirt road and we got picked up over here. So that was the end of our tour. So what we've been talking about in terms of alignment is one bridge, one structure. So the road crossing of 10 Mile starts here, comes south and does this, and then we end up on the south side. So our belief at Parks is that it works better to use this segment of existing pathway to one bridge and then otherwise have pathway on the north side to avoid this tight area here with that property owner.
And that aligns with.
You're already on that
going
side.
up to the west,
right?
Yep.
It does. So that makes perfect sense.
So Public Works, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you want me
I
to
don't know,
jump
you
in?
could probably
So one of the
explain it just as well.
questions that we've been asked to resolve and get the commission to weigh in on is in this area where we want to be, and if I can maybe get a couple of different colors. What we think it should do is what she's just drawn. In other words, so it's on the north side as you come from Reed Park.
Reedy Husky.
Okay, and then this is the area where the trailheads plan to be, a little brighter.
Yeah.
So trailhead, and so we have a cost share in the works with ACHD to widen this side of the bridge to get 10 feet cross there. And then we have our hawk signal, and then onto the existing pathway like that. Public Works Director has been in favor of considering the north side right up against the treatment plant, which thinking that it might help us avoid a crossing. But what you would have to do is go south, cross, north again, and then in, and then cross the driveway again. And we'd have to, we still have to negotiate a wider crossing on this side that we haven't already negotiated.
There's no room. It's very narrow right there.
And crossing that driveway is busier and busier.
It's a total bottleneck, yeah.
So one of the problems too is that you can move the hawk signal. If you move it so it's just kind of a straight shot across there, you move the hawk signal more or less right underneath the driveway, so the people that are making traffic movements out of that driveway, they can't see if it's flashing.
Right.
So all they have to go on is the little walkie thing on the other side, and a lot of people don't even pay attention to that. If it's not sitting there
There's
red.
not a mechanism though that could put a side light so that you can see it?
It's out here is the same thing.
Well, in our, we're talking to ACHD about a cost share agreement, and that
it's
scope is
rough.
pretty fully evolved, and, the design is underway, and we've kind of said, based on that we feel like the crossing works well with our existing pathway, this bottleneck, and where the creek and the trailhead are. I suppose we can always ask for something
I don't think you slow it down.
else, but
If
I
they're
don't
in
think,
design
and we
you
ended up
guys are
with
cost
14
sharing,
feet on the
no.
side instead of 10,
So
just because that's
If
that
you
we're not
stayed
paying
on the
for it,
north
just
side,
that's
would you
how it
have to
worked out.
pave that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's all new
Well, you have to go across the driveway,
Right,
share
but-
the
Yeah.
driveway,
So
and then go across again.
And that's
I think
nice.
that-
Bridge be cheaper than paving that whole thing?
Probably not, but it's pretty
In
tight.
either case,
there.
it's not like this is a free option because,
No.
I mean,
No.
Wow.
I mean, it's dangerous. I mean, there's those issues with safety and traffic. Plus, we have to pave it
And
anyway,
I
so
think
using the existing
you
path
create,
is
if
all-
the hawk signal's here and you have pathway on both sides, people are gonna
People are
wanna
gonna
take a
cut
chance,
over.
they're gonna
Yeah,
cut
right.
across.
They're gonna cut it, they are.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Totally.
and you
They're
make
not
a
gonna go
good
down the
point,
lots.
Keith, in that
Absolutely.
existing pathway, I mean, it wasn't in the greatest condition, but it was paved and it's already there and it seems
Well, and I
like
think
it
too,
would be-
aesthetically, you want to ride next to a chain link fence with Constantine wire on it, because
Yeah.
that's what you're riding against on
Yeah.
the edge of the treatment plant.
And it's very
all the
industrial
way
on
down.
there.
And another thing is, what is one of the reasons you go
to the backside of Bardnay and walk down the Greenbelt in Eagle. It's because of the bridge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be neat to put a signature bridge in somewhere in here? I mean, I know that's costly, but a signature bridge out there would be really neat.
It's kind of like Friendship Bridge over in, that connects the Greenbelt and Boise to Boise State. Where,
Are there any funding sources? I'm writing that down just because I think we've been thinking of the bridge as a super utilitarian.
Now, are you going to go out and take photos because the treatment plant's right there? You're probably going to take them to the south. You're not going to take them to the north.
Right.
But
They're also on the opposite side.
So we could use the bridge and we could.
There are also a couple of water sampling stations. I think there's one upstream and one down.
Yeah,
Maybe how they do it. Yeah. So we would need to figure out some way to ensure
We have
that
some logistical
security
challenges, whether we're,
there is.
coming along on the north or crossing here with how to deal with those sampling stations.
Well, and another neat thing is that, so this whole area right here is this is all being developed right here by the treatment plant.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I know Public Works is working on is they're trying to get a secondary exit.
Yeah. Out this way.
Out this way. So if they can get these landowners to agree to it, and Dale would know, then
we're meeting with him next week.
You may be able to get them to help with your pathway.
Sure, and it's already planned on the north side.
Sure.
The part that I think is worth pointing out, right now the existing adopted pathway map continues it on the south until about here and then crosses, and then you can see it continue on.
There is an existing crossing, it's very unbridged,
But the idea of getting through this existing development is...
We better cross it before that.
Well, what if we crossed at the property line?
You have
The
a
new property
crossing
line.
here, you'd be doing two bridges.
Yeah, because
the
10 Mile
9
comes right
Mile-
here. 10 Mile, or not,
The
yeah.
9 Mile, you'd have to have a major bridge here and a major bridge
Okay.
wherever. So by crossing before you hit 9 Mile, you do one bridge instead of two.
Okay.
And then we can partner with the wastewater treatment plant to figure out how to do this with whatever they're doing.
Yep.
That's what makes the most sense.
Well, and the reality is that landowner, they've had a lot of trouble trying to get them to cooperate. They may be more cooperative if they know it's
We
gonna
talked to
be
them about a
for
hot signal
community
over
use
here.
as well, not just for
We'll need one.
trucks to get in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll need one there.
And the good part about this, like to answer your question that brought us here, is how does these connect? From that point on, it's back on the north side. You could argue that why cross to the south side here if you could have it continuously on the north side? But given the configuration of what's already there, I think it just
I think the south
makes
side's
better
better.
sense, especially if we can get a trailhead here.
Yes.
Come to the south for about a third of a mile, transition back to the north, and then we're right in line with the north where this is already built.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're funded for the trailhead.
Is the trailhead a done deal?
The trailhead's a done deal. We're
Okay,
funded for it. It's
We
gonna
actually got
happen.
the funding.
It's the only thing that
Yeah.
makes more sense if they just totally changed their access point and blocked that off.
Yeah.
And just did a different direction, then you won't have that confusion of
Right.
traffic. and
Oh, you're saying
pedestrians
like,
and-
so come up here
So-
and then go up this way?
So
Given
go
that this is-
south and
Given that their
maybe
RV
not.
dump
Maybe
station is on this side,
The RV
that
dump
side,
station.
the RV dump stations, this will always be the main entrance.
right. So in other words, I think you just
Well, with all that
need to
traffic
avoid it.
and
That
the
area.
RVs and stuff, just put a stoplight in there.
That area
It solves the
is
whole
better.
thing.
More
Right?
stoplights.
So
The,
what's this gonna
just
connect
throwing that
to
out
here?
there,
This
guys.
is existing, but it's not really
Yeah,
finished.
this
Those
is
big
the-
RVs.
So we
This
rode
is the
that.
dirt.
We rode that.
Yeah, this
dirt.
is the
Right.
dirt,
It dumps
right?
up from-
So
That's
it's
the
not
dirt.
real
Yeah,
finished.
and there's actually
No,
like a
that's
church
not.
going in here somewhere, and so it requires a pathway.
Yeah, we
to
went
get back
on the
into
dirt
here.
path.
Well, yeah, we did. Yeah, we rode. I rode down this trail on our way back.
So was this cemented,
Yes.
finished?
Yeah.
And then this
Yeah.
connects to, what's the purpose?
But then this didn't have much of anything, it's kind of stick currently,
So
not much.
ultimately what I needed is for us to say yes the way that we.
Yeah, I think we
just need
feel
to know
like
that
this is
what's
a,
drawn there is
Yeah.
what you'd like to see.
Okay, so I want to move forward.
Right?
okay,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
I'm sticking and
Time
start
keeper.
forward.
Time's
Okay, so
ticking.
general,
Go Joe.
Hey, this is the last shot I give you to tell us I like to use it. She's using it.
You think this is gonna stop
okay,
me?
so general crossing, she said, this one I think is pretty quick, more of an update, just pathways that have happened, so we probably don't need to spend a lot of time here.
So this is 10-mile interchange?
Yeah, and this
Okay.
I was thinking was 10 foot, I think it's only 7 foot, but we do have a pretty strong pedestrian link over the interstate. And then the development that's occurred here, we've got some constructed landscaped pathway that crosses over. Is this not 10 miles? Yeah.
Yeah, 10 mile
crossing,
Franklin.
of course. Yeah, and we'll head. This is constructed pathway, and it does have to go under because of an irrigation district requirements. So we've got potential, you know.
But there is an underpass available for that
There-
frontage road and everything, right?
There is
Yeah.
one available, yeah, so that's exciting. Yeah, red is already constructed, and, yeah.
Are you letting
Plan is to
development
make
build the rest of that out?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
they've essentially
Yep. And that
proposed,
should
so
come
that's Brighton.
fairly-
They've
that
done
should
a
come
nice
fairly
job.
quickly,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot going on
Isn't
in
that
there.
where the Paylocity is
There's
now?
some
Or
big, yeah.
Maribel.
And then along the creek, there are, you know,
That's who's
apartments.
Brighton.
So the big map change for the 10-mile creek through here is that it's moving from the north side to the north side to the south side, is
Yeah,
that correct?
and that was, and worked that out from Meridian.
And is
So,
this changing sides, or is that just kind of a
that's
repeat of
kind
what's
of,
there?
I don't know that we know yet. This is a straighter connection.
I guess I'm asking,
than
is
was
there a
shown.
difference between your yellow line and the green line that's underneath it?
Not intentionally.
Okay.
Yeah, but that would be a good question to get answered in terms of side.
So now if we can just get people to go speed limit.
Right.
So
Wow. Yeah. In the
how do we
morning on that?
connect that over there?
So-
That gets us towards downtown or that area.
Yeah, I don't know how much,
City's gonna have to reach into their pocket.
yeah.
That's 10 mile, right?
That's
Yeah.
10 mile. So, and it looks like there's only really a clear access on one side. I don't know. Probably doesn't show any better on the other side.
Oh, there's a second map.
That's a different one.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
different.
Trying to find the.
Oh,
So, but
oh.
that,
correlates to that.
I think that one
There is.
probably has
you're looking at 10
because it would need to be a shared access.
But then we're running into everything else we do, we have pathways.
Yeah, I don't know about
So we're right here.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on our list, but
This is that?
what about our new
Yes,
park
on
that
a
we're getting? How do we connect it?
That's our next sheet.
Okay.
So, in terms of,
It's just trying to
yeah,
the correlation.
yeah, so this is an on-street route to get us up and across.
And that's that one right there.
Yeah.
Cover that.
Right.
So it'd be great to connect these. But yeah, I think we
Hi,
need to
Caleb.
look into feasibility of this. Yeah, we've got an existing stretch of pathway here. There's a really cool sort of keyhole culvert that you could, and it drag your walk through the creek bed. But I don't know about, you know,
See, 'cause now
what
everything
potential we have for a
with
crossing
This is
here
so close
either.
to getting us another pathway that actually has some distance to it.
Right, yeah.
Does this one connect to Fuller?
Yeah.
But
On the
this
backside of
railroad
that, yeah.
track crossing, yeah, that's tricky.
How would we get across the railroad track? That is
That's tricky.
tricky
And this
question.
is, yeah, already constructed. It's a little
It is.
creepy. Like it feels pretty far up the beaten path and with the storage
yeah.
units. and
It
the-
feels nice through here, and then when you get into the
Looks like you're not in Meridian. You're saying when you're
A
in that
little,
thing.
yeah, a little bit. It just,
It's
it
just
doesn't
very
feel like it
industrial.
has eyes on it.
Pedestrian
Yeah.
skywalks,
And there was a bit of
like
trash
the one over
dumping back.
Overland.
You know, just sort of felt like you didn't get a lot of
This
traffic.
part through here next to the church is really nice.
And there's
So,
some
you don't know
development, quite a bit
there's-
happening
so on
here.
Overland, there's
It
one
seems
where
to
you
be
multifamilies going on.
You walk up a
Oh,
staircase, and
I
there's
don't know.
there's a thing
There's
that
a
goes
nice
over
walkway.
the top of the
There's
road.
a
Nice
well
out
built.
here, Mike. You
So
kind of know what's going on
yeah.
out there.
Down by Cole.
And this is where
kind
Fast
of.
Eddie's
No,
is, right?
further this way.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
here, Fast Eddie's.
No, Fast
No,
Eddie's is
Fast
up
Eddie's
all
is
the way
Fast
up
Eddie's
above.
down, yeah.
Fast Eddie's is up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, It's this right, that is
It's
Fast
somewhere
Eddie's, I
out.
think.
Oh, it's right there.
I think so. That is Fast
Yeah.
Eddie's.
Because this is, so
This is a 10-mile Christian church.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is the railroad tracks right
oh,
here.
that is the tracks, okay.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
following.
So that's kind of.
About something like that over
What's
the
that?
railroad.
Yeah, there's a culvert. I have a picture of it. It's really, it's almost kind of evil shaped. It's really kind of cool, but it's yeah. When I got there, I thought,
Pathway through
boy,
and the canal?
Yeah, nope, it's not that big, and, yeah.
It's enough to get the canal under the tracks, but not a pathway in the canal under the tracks.
Or, you know.
It's like from the Terminator, that's what I'm talking about.
Just ferry
They have that
lines.
scene with the Terminator, like the big
little boat.
Yeah,
Put a
I'm
little
talking
boat,
about.
just
Where it goes
ferry
to
them
drainage,
down,
just like
back out.
Just goes through.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Be like Lewis and Clark.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to.
Look at feasibility. I think that might be a shared access to the irrigation district. That might be where we need to build a have-to pathway. Because, and even so, there may be encroachments.
It's probably going to be the way they built that.
I can't remember, this doesn't show, I was staring to see if I could see property lines.
No,
and I
it
don't.
doesn't.
I think this might be one of those locations where property lines are platted to the center line of the
Oh, yeah.
canal.
Yeah.
And there's not a separate common lot, which would be a lot easier to
Yeah, I know.
negotiate a pathway through.
You're Yeah. kidding.
But if you gotta work with every individual lot property owner, it's
It's
not
just
likely.
almost impossible. So,
It's not low-hanging fruit anyway.
no.
If they came out and said, hey, we want to, if we had a really cool, robust pathway network through here, which is coming.
Yeah.
And then that HOA said, hey, we want to connect to that and we'll help, rally the neighborhood, we'd probably love to work with them.
If we could sort of exert pressure
But I
from
don't
here
think
and
the
from here.
reality of us working with 100 different property owners is very realistic.
Well, we've already got the
No,
pathway.
that'd be a taller.
This takes one out of 100 to say no.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if that's not, is there an alternate then? What
So-
is the alternate for that?
Represent
Yeah,
on
it looks
Linder.
like,
You're gonna have to light up 8th Street
So
too.
they're-
yeah, an on-street route.
Yeah.
But I don't know, let's look at that. So,
Because that sounds like that's more
Street
of a
route
dream
that
we're
would then
never
be-
really gonna see.
oh, so this one isn't maybe
It's
very,
a,
yeah, so then we end up,
the pedestrians walk this way, and then
Going
this one is
north.
Then we
a
end up with
zigzag
all
stair
this
steps.
and it's cold.
You see that whole building? Freeway, just down to the
halfway
freeway.
on
Yeah, is this the,
so we have our on-street
continuation
route
back?
here, yeah.
I've seen
Then we do, this is our 9 Mile Creek and the Railroad Trail. But yeah, there isn't, so that would kind of
because
be
of all the issues.
the connection north and to City Hall and then down.
Working with the
Story
railroad.
Park. But yeah, we end up not,
Alternative methods of
kind of
with
just
a
having
big
to skirt
hole.
that area.
Really
Yeah.
hard.
So,
Well, this one
but I-
Is that that area, Kevin, we were talking about, that pathway?
yeah, this is the area where
And modes of
we
transportation.
think it would be,
Yeah, because that gets us downtown and even to that side of everything.
yeah, and right now it looks like the opportunity is
Well, if
to, is
I'm
an
right,
on-street
if I remember
route.
right, it's a beautiful stretch of the street. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it from Waldman, there's this little tiny
There's a
pathway
piece
that's about
that's
5 foot
built.
wide, yeah.
There's people walking it.
Yeah, there
all
are
the time.
cows,
Oh, yeah.
well, there were, probably not anymore.
But that's something that the city's gonna have to work on getting done.
Yeah, that would be really great, because then, yeah, we've got pathway over to
Yeah, I see that
Yeah.
as a future
I think if we could, yeah, put enough
priority.
pressure, kind
I
of,
don't think it is today, but it's,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great, I wouldn't take it off the map, I'd say that. 'Cause
yeah.
So we definitely want some kind of identifying what other option we have, right? Or is that just kind of, this is
There's
the
not
only option
much,
we've come up with?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Franklin Road's built.
There's not a lot you can
Mile
do when you
is
don't
all
have
built- It's all
development
built out.
utilize.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
greenfield.
It's
Can
a good
we, like,
argument for a
come
railroad
up?
trail, I
Or
think.
no, there's the.
Well, but
there's
here's the other
issue.
thing, guys, that you
Come
have
up
to
this
keep in
way.
mind is eventually they're gonna build Linder Road over the freeway there. We've already got it spec'd out that we're gonna have a large pathway going across that, the freeway, because it's like Locust
Oh,
Grove,
so
but we've
then it
already
will
got
go
it
up to
spec'd
here.
in.
Yeah.
So we're just connected.
And you've got the
here.
high school sitting up
Yeah.
here.
Is that
right
where
there.
it is? Yeah.
So we'll just go away, but at least we'd have that connection with this, where we'd
Well,
connect the
if
two.
we get this one, now you've got that connection all the way to here, and they're gonna widen this, because they've got it widened to Pine right now. So they're gonna have to widen all this section anyway. So when they do that, we put a pathway in.
And if we ever get the railroad trail, that becomes a
Yeah.
continuous connection that you could jump over onto at any point.
Right.
and-
It's a
and-
commuter
Yeah.
route.
We are getting the railroad trail configuration on the walkability comp plan map in a more accurate, for the study configuration, not just a single line, but like some specifics as to where that would actually occur. So,
And with Linder, we've got a better overpass for us locally than we did with Locust Grove, because we were too late with Locust
Get a
Grove.
pathway.
Did you have an overpass later?
We got it in there.
That's how long he's been around.
Yeah.
And you're right. Well, Mike has a good point. If it's
He
already
has that
developed,
knowledge
you
to help
can't
us.
tell a developer you have to do this if you're going to develop because it's
You
already-
gotta take
yeah.
advantage of
Yeah, you have
green
to put a
space
wall
and
there.
get it in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're ready to move south?
Yep.
Okay, so this one,
I think it was on the other map.
yeah.
It's not listed down with this one.
So did we talk to Meridian before? I thought that was on our.
It's on the Blackstone. It already goes past. Past
Look it up on that.
No, but only from Black Cat. It doesn't come in from 10 miles.
Okay, so this is South Meridian.
That's what we were looking
Going
The
into
new
Tuna area.
YMCA up here, no, right here. Hillsdale Park, this is Hill Century Farm. I think the map isn't updated yet, but this will follow the creek going down on this side. 10 mile.
So I'm with you.
So we've got some good things happening here. There's some development currently happening here in a crossing spot, but this I think will be a mid-block or a mid-mile connector. So this is a proposed roadway, and I do think we need to get some, even if it's attached sidewalk.
Blackstone comes in right there.
Happening to.
Well, I think then.
This is still a proposed school site, right?
That's owned by the school.
Yeah. I think it's a high school. Just connecting.
Oh, that's the high school site.
They own that spot right there.
Generate a lot of.
But I think, if you think about, if this is the Boise boundary, what is their connectivity over there?
That's a good point. There's a
You might
really
wanna
nice
just figure out what
bit
their
of pathway
connectivity is.
existing over here that, I'd like
There's already a
to
bridge right
do
there.
just because it's already there and
So the
it's
question is,
scenic,
do you want to
but
put another one
that's a good point.
back here?
Sometimes there really isn't anything
Right.
to if you push.
What's that one? There's a canal that comes up from the
So if you-
south. So this is following the 10 Mile Creek. That's 10 Mile Creek pathway. And then it diverts here to get to a road crossing. It's at the mid. At the
So
half
that's
mile.
the soccer complex
Oh,
down there, and
Was,
that is
yeah.
the that's Boise Range Golf Course. Right there.
yeah, and then here's our new park. This is a roundabout.
this is
isn't it?
church.
No, is this a roundabout now?
No,
No.
it's a four-way stop right
the
now.
roundabout's
Okay,
right here.
yeah.
This is where those bigger homes are up on the hill, and then
Yeah.
it drops down to that
Yeah,
floor.
there's quite a bit of churches.
Yeah, it's pretty-
That's
Comes right, yeah.
You're not gonna get a lot of people that want to pedal up that.
Well, and it's so narrow, like even driving up it, like to go slow to try to figure out
Yeah.
which house this comes through. It's
So
like, there is
this-
no.
This line was that we had it in one of the public meetings, it must have been a South Eagle Road ACHD meeting, somebody had said, they wanted essentially a connection, and it looks like the connection now. So Taconic, I think,
Isn't that
has some
going right
decent
through the
existing
homes?
pathway. No, it wouldn't. I just sort of threw that on there to remind us to
I'm
talk
moving
about.
all kinds of dirt right back here right now.
Oh, yeah?
Right. But once we get across.
There's a lot
And
of
it seems like it would make more sense to just.
Do we have existing, this is existing
It's
pathway?
existing, yeah.
So, at some point, it could, who knows where the roads are gonna be, but
Yeah.
you could
this
try
is-
and get,
I think maybe
more
plat it, yeah.
here. 'Cause this is gonna be a signalized intersection at some point,
There's no way to
and
get
then
to
not
10
in place of that one.
Because this and this looks scary to me, because you're too close to this four-way stop, and this is only 2 lanes.
Yeah, this is
gonna be
sorry about your
widened.
fingernail. Yeah, so say this is
Lake
pretty
Hazel being widened?
narrow.
Oh, yeah. It's supposed to be in the long, it's not being widened.
That's not a fence right there?
But it's in the
No,
plans
there's a
to be a
little
major
shade or whatever
east-west
you can go
thoroughfare.
through.
Wasn't
I didn't know that there was a connection.
So when that happens, won't we get a pathway in that? When that widening happens, wouldn't that be when we could add like a pathway and then that would go all the way to here?
Park to the school.
Right.
Yeah, we
had
had
to go
tried
through
to,
school down
as
here.
part of the widening, project,
there
get a
for that
wider sidewalk and pay for the
We'd still want the pathway over here, but I'm
I'd
just
rather
thinking,
have
like,
it off
we
the
wouldn't want
highway
this
if
though.
possible.
Yeah.
If possible. What's that?
Because, yeah, we wouldn't want, because I know like adding this to the 2-lane right now, it feels like way too scary. I wouldn't want to be on that little 2-lane with a little, so if the plan is to widen that already, then I don't, this can all be taken off.
But I want to try and make sure that we have the ability to get from Hillsdale over
If you take a trip over there, this is all being, dirt's being moved over here.
Is that where the big fill project is?
Yeah, the dirt's being moved over here, so, I don't know about that, Steve, but if you think about as homes get built this way, you can just get them, and maybe you go clear out and around, because you want to follow this, but there may be an opportunity to shorten it down. I think you might just want to look at that.
So this, because
The whole area.
So wait, now what are you saying there? You saying
This is
about
being
this way?
developed, this is all
Yeah.
being developed right now. So there's an opportunity to talk and find out where the roads are gonna be and what the pathway is for that development.
Because the entrance to this is right here. Across from that house.
Yeah.
Correct?
It's
When I
near
was
there.
out there, I'm standing, I parked in this
But this is
entrance.
coming
and
down.
straight north.
This is coming
There'll be a
down.
future road that we have to build happen over there. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you just have to see
The
what
main,
this
so
development is.
this will be right in, right out. The main entrance to the park is gonna be down here.
Right, we have built roads.
There's actually pathway coming.
So we're not gonna have like a protected crossing there to this. So now we're saying we wanna go across right here.
Because there's gonna be a signalized
Oh,
intersection right
Because
now.
that's the mid-mile.
Okay, so when I was out there, I was thinking this was it.
Well, for
That's
now,
why I'm
it
getting
is.
confused about how we're going this way, then when we have to go across.
Yeah,
We're saying no.
long-term, ACHD has identified Lake Hazel as a, what they call a mobility corridor, and it's gonna be 5 lanes and restricted access. So this right here, we're gonna fight it. Will want to make this right in and right out only.
Restricted access, meaning not a lot of curb cuts and that.
Yeah,
not a lot of traffic flow.
Yep, and then, so, in order to move to phase 2 of the park, we need to develop this road right here. So,
Okay.
Figure out a way to buy that.
Oh, it's already been purchased.
I just don't know how to
Oh, really?
Fire department. So that's owned by the rural fire district right now, but intended for a Meridian fire station.
That's fabulous. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, an eyesore. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, any other
Now you don't have to find
comments on
this.
we're on it.
This plan.
Well, they're on it, but-
They're on it.
Yeah.
This is all developing.
We tried to buy it first.
too, and I think that this was where we ran into trouble and we needed to get south, what is it called? No.
But they had the.
Yeah, I think there's some
That's all 100 homes right
conditions.
there.
They were able
Yeah.
to, they're
I
better
think some of it
negotiators than
is.
we are.
And here's where they want to put the roads.
Where they had more money, I'm not sure which.
Is that the fancy one with the?
I'll give you a call.
Maybe. I don't know how fancy, but that's, it's held up right now, but that's where they want to put it.
Public safety.
Yeah, these are all 100 homes right here, so.
Yeah, I want to say Black Rock.
I
think I need one out
My
there.
glitter company.
I want, we don't want a food desert.
We
I
had,
just love that
we
word.
sent out a deal to my daughter.
Is
Friends with Trey on
If you
Facebook.
count one.
So she sent out a deal saying, hey, we need
Or
names
if
for
there's
colors,
another
right? Well, he came off with Trey Tangerine.
Okay.
Trey,
So,
you know.
the map that I sent Mike to get
So
off
one of them
water
actually
for the Settlers
was
Park
called
area.
Trey Tangerine.
Which area?
So I told him.
That was the other area that we got
use the big
talking
one.
about. We
Go
can
back
use
to
the
the
big one. So maybe we pull a photograph just, so.
And Settlers Park is the last one, correct?
Settlers Park is the last one, yeah.
But it's kind of a big one, because we need to talk about getting from here to here, and I know that,
There were
I
some.
think Craig was even talking about getting from here to here.
Yes.
Yeah, this doesn't go anywhere. But I guess that's the green. Oh, you're gonna connect that?
Yeah.
That's proposed, yeah.
And
Yeah,
approved,
see.
because it's thick green.
Because Settlers, we don't have
What is
anything
the,
going to it. What's that? But one of the areas we really need to focus in on is
To that, to
how
that.
does
Right? This right
does
here
this work?
is all very vague, and you drive up this and you don't even really see where that pathway is. and then you're on the
There's a
actual
piece
Eagle
here that's
Road.
built, isn't there? Or
Yeah,
not?
there's a tiny piece that like ends though right here, and then you see the side of their houses.
So there's some built pathway here?
Because the pathway is for this. It appears
Yeah.
like, and the pathway lines, the back of these homes is
Mhm.
literally on the pathway.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
does it go out to Eagle Road? Does it come out here?
Yes, but I don't think it actually connects up to here. Then you just see this like fields-ish. And then you see these, you're on Eagle Road with these homes.
And then the stretch from here to here is not low-hanging fruit because it's
Totally.
built out. It's totally built out already in subdivisions. So there's a gap. Then this piece was, one of these was recently platted, and that's the one that we were working on last week.
Oh, the
in
Blakesley
the corner.
Commons.
What's
Is
that?
it Blakesley Commons?
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
I think it was like this piece or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
No.
Those are still pretty under construction.
Yeah, but there are
just a
some.
little tiny piece.
Yeah, some little bitty, sort of like the crook of an elbow will be
Mhm.
somebody's condition for, yeah. But yeah, there's a bit happening.
That's
And then there's some
And then-
existing development along Wingate Lane that's, not,
It's kind of a little private.
it's not a separate platted lot, it's somebody's yard, so that is not, it's not likely to happen until there's some kind of redevelopment.
So, you
And I
know,
think this is, I can't think of the name of the development, I think it's
That's being developed, right?
too. I think the cows are gonna go. There's
The cows are
barn,
going.
Yeah.
It's, over 55, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, that development.
Or the community is gonna be a 55 and older community.
But some of this is getting developed right
close,
now.
yeah.
No, you're right.
A lot
Yeah.
of this
Yeah.
is getting
I
a lot of
think-
development
yeah,
pressure
there's some
currently.
That
here.
section was just at, this section was just at council last month. This section, they're finishing that pathway as
Yeah.
part of it.
And there's something existing, I think,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just
There's-
on street, but there's something
No,
that's
there's
connected.
there's some,
into.
we'd have to go back
Yeah.
and look at the.
I think we need to verify existing pathway in this mile as part of the cleanup.
Yeah, I'll look at that real quick. I can pull it up at the last.
Yeah, and the other thing, though, is if we can
Start to.
connect this, because this is going to be done.
I'll just say, if we can figure, the main missing gap right now is to get to Settlers
Yeah.
Park, we don't have anything drawn to get from
that's-
this pathway to Settlers,
ACHD
right?
has those remnant parcels right there on, right
And there's a
where
hawk
the
signal right here,
On
too.
this side or the other?
There's a hawk signal here,
On the east side.
They- We
Okay.
could say, hey, we want to put a bigger sidewalk in there.
so the kids can get across the street
Yeah, there's,
from
sure,
the
I mean, there's 30
Junior
feet
high.
over there.
30 feet of gravel.
Oh, this is
I
the.
don't
is
know if
that
it comes all the way
Sawtooth?
back to here. I know it's up at the corner.
It doesn't go.
So that's why if we
it
can
stops at that,
connect,
but they're
and
developing.
there is
that-
some
but
kind of a
that-
little
but that's
pathway here.
Yeah.
down to the creek. That's
Yeah,
all
the
being
schools
developed,
often
but
have
I
that,
don't
but
think
we
they're
don't
putting
always
anything
show them
in.
on our-
Right.
but
Not
yeah,
roadway.
that looks
We
like
don't
that.
show anything on the
Not
plan.
roadside.
Yeah, they have one that goes around the school. If we could
The
connect.
light's
into it.
right, that light's right there.
Yeah, there's an
At the
offset
entrance.
Oh, here. Yes,
sidewalk.
it is to the,
Yeah, it's a little bit further
so it's a
south.
little
But it's,
detour down
yeah,
to
right in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
main entrance, okay.
But there's sidewalks that go there
Yeah,
on both
there's good
sides.
sidewalks.
Yeah,
Really good
On my
sidewalks.
side, right.
the on-street, so it's a solid on-street.
Yeah. I mean, there's.
And this is probably.
We've traveled that before with the commission, and there's starts and stops and road crossings, but there's a preserved corridor through there that has the potential of.
But even if we're able to get, and I don't know what's going on in here, it looks like there's stuff, but if we're able to get even to the school somewhere in there, because again, the school has a pathway going around it. And with some of the, like Hillsdale, the school district should loosen up as far as letting other people use their things. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how much we, the security and safety issues, but.
well, but you got an
it seems
elementary
like
school that
mostly
everybody
it's
and
for
their
the
dog's
kids.
invited to,
Yeah.
so.
Kim, when you're out verifying existing pathway, I believe that this platted subdivision has now built that section through there. I
I'll
think
check
that's
that.
now existing.
Do you know? Yep, I think you are.
And I think at our last meeting,
I haven't
someone
spent a lot
mentioned
of
that
time
this
over here.
is an easy one. This would be easy to connect to McMillan. You said that, I don't know why. Does anybody believe that that's still easy?
Say what?
To connect up to McMillan, they said it'd be easy to go up to McMillan.
It's really wide.
They're 10 feet.
It's
I
a
bet.
lot better. I mean, it was completely discontinuous just a few years ago, and they did build that sidewalk to get up to Heritage, and kids, tons of kids walk it.
Yep.
So
We've got our limb park right there.
a lot better. It is continuous. It used to be really discontinuous and start and stop and start and stop.
Yeah, so if we can just tie in a few of those right there, we're to Settlers Park now.
Yeah, we're starting to
Oh,
get
almost,
So-
right?
We just need to tie in a
connect
few.
this one and then this, and then go
Yeah.
up there, and that would be the loop.
Well, and once you connect that way, you're into that whole pathway system up there.
And then we're focused back on this way and trying to figure this
Right.
out to get to
Mhm.
Julius. Farmer.
Because the subdivision here is building this piece. It'll be done.
Yeah.
That's another one to go out and verify.
Yeah, I will. I really haven't spent a lot of.
Yeah, Mike was supposed to do that. No, excuse me.
I was. and
I just had to throw
promised-
you under the bus just a little
No,
bit.
that's
No,
okay.
I
I
was
forgot.
gonna go.
I already
I
apologized.
was gonna
was
go
going
out
to
to
too, so-
Blakeslee or out here just
Yeah.
to see what
If you
was
get there,
going
call.
on.
If you get there
Yeah.
first, call me.
Okay.
Well, because I remember this developer, some people that were getting their houses in this thought that they were gonna get a park. And it was all over because they were never gonna actually get a park. When they referenced the park in the community, they meant access to this park.
Oh, really?
And so I believe that's how some of that is. And then I think they tried to, say you could have access to this one, but they only went to their line, I believe. I don't think it kept,
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a little
There's some
break.
developments proposed here.
That'll all
too,
be
but it's kind of
commercial,
a-
And you're
Christmas
right,
trees, no?
that area, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the news a couple years ago? They were upset because they thought they were getting a community park.
And if you could
They
get
thought they lost it.
into, I mean, if we could get here,
Oh, good.
and then they could get a sidewalk in here, now you got that light to
They could,
cross.
yeah,
Phyllis
work it
Bear,
out.
it's a
Yeah.
Big,
country club style
in there,
gym.
but you'd
It's
have to
got
buy
hills and
access, but those
It was
are
in the paper.
It was.
A couple weeks
Yeah.
ago.
It's like
No, I looked up
$100 a month.
Site plan.
Yeah.
But it's
building
kind
a
of
nice
a
thing.
tricky
Corner
site,
of
like
California.
they're gonna have to figure some
I
things
think it's
out.
They have a
Yeah,
there's
would
a
we,
bar.
would we
It's
be
a
able to
barbecue.
build like a big
Yeah,
race
I'm
course
gonna
so
say,
that you know
hey,
it's
look
not,
this way,
you're not
it's a-
on the
Okay,
road?
so,
That would be
So
the
you can-
thing to do.
Yeah, I don't get
This-
the action there.
we'll do a little more research in
That-
terms of
that's
what's
what that money
existing and
is for the day,
proposed.
I guess.
But the
And pending.
the goal, just to goal, connect
Connect settlers.
settlers
Pathways, like this
to,
part.
over to Kleiner, right?
Yeah.
And then
Do a big strip. Whoops.
from here, we're trying to get
Kinda connect
To Linder.
this
settlers
part.
to Sawtooth, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, connect settlers to Sawtooth.
What, does anybody, do you know what's going on here, Mike? You know where Linder and Eastick? It's
Where
like
was
big
it?
Dirt. A big dirt.
Pasture out there?
Yeah,
It's like a pasture road.
I don't. Both sides of that road are still undeveloped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know who owns them, but.
It might be Mark Bottles.
This one's
Yeah, that's a big
here.
pasture.
Is that one going up? Is that
what's-
undeveloped? I know there's signs in the
sure.
yard, but I don't
Um,
know that it's
I
been
think
sold yet.
submitted
I think maybe. for-
The one that's
Right,
been
but I
at
can't-
council recently has been this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I know the architect
Yep.
on that.
Yep.
One of my
Well,
students
and
had to
then
do
I
the
know-
paperwork for it.
I know.
He was defeated when I got.
We're gonna have to, over there on that one, Kim, you're gonna have to jump the canal again.
This one over here is
Probably
just,
really
and then they're
fast
talking
for
about.
Sort of ranch. I think we should look at ranch.
Because these houses,
Pardon me.
these houses, this is our problem in here because they come right up to the canal.
Well, that's one of them where you own up to the middle of the canal. I'm
Evil
sure.
Knievel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
we-
the only thing that I really specifically want to know is that group, this map.
Oh, yeah, facts.
So if Rachel can email that out, so we just get all the information.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
And
that
I'm sure
should
they'd be
that group.
glad to come, some representative, and they'd be
Well,
glad to have any
them-
of you. on
Have
a-
them come, but I'd also like to
meeting.
know, have a little more information on them so that I like to.
Yeah, no, they do a summary,
Yes,
I
do a
could
little bit.
forward
I mean, if
some
someone has a
too.
principal interest in the green belt,
Yep.
along the Boise River specifically, fax would be a great
They do a
connection
lot of-
for someone from the commission to interface there. If someone has a principal interest in the railroad trail, there were some citizen representatives at the work group, right? That just got word of the meeting and showed up. So there's probably a way to get you engaged.
Yeah,
with
they'd
the,
love to have you attend meetings or be on their board.
Do we ever have Compass come in? I mean, I know Compass is a lot of development, but I don't know that I've ever seen that.
I think now that the Railroad Trail work group is
Spearheading that.
re-energized, you know, maybe even come, I'm thinking around March, because they've got an RFP out right now. It's on the streets.
Okay.
They're hiring a consultant to do the refining, the concept planning, cost estimating, and what the municipal agreements might look like for the railroad trail over the next 8 months or so. They should have that under contract by February, I would think, ish, depending on how long it takes to get through the board and whatnot. But March would probably be a pretty good time to introduce it, actually, I think.
Yeah.
See if we can get Matt to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh, yeah.
thinking, because he's coming.
Get Matt to come.
Well, the fax group, there's also a woman, a young woman who's been coming in from Canyon County talking about the Snake River Water Trail.
Oh, okay.
Which I had never heard of either, which is sort of part waterway for recreation, but I think there are some trails associated with it, but it goes on for like all the way to the Oregon border.
I used to live on this.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit of momentum building for that too. I haven't made it to any of the meetings, it wasn't a priority, but yeah, it's a good group. It's a lot of people who really care and think pretty widely in terms of the valley. And I think it's some important things to do.
So I just said, when we are crossing the bigger roads, like you just mentioned, can we make a wall there?
Make a wall, like
if you're on Eagle Road, to differentiate, like have some kind of safety barrier?
Oh.
For these bigger ones,
Between
just
the-
like with Highway 16, if we end up not being able to go under and have to go over and it's more than 3 lanes, do we ever make something?
I know with highways of a certain
What
speed,
were we
there
doing
are
with
offset
Linder?
rules.
Because we put something in to have it kind of, some kind of protection
Because
there.
Eagle is scary,
When
to just
you go over
be
Linder.
on it on the side.
Even with some.
So when we do the connection on Fairview,
That's just.
between Lakes Place and where the pathway kind of dead ends, that's what we were talking about, is having some kind of separation, whether it's just a
But that,
little
that
taller
is just
curb
like
or a
little
short
curve.
wrought iron or some kind of something to keep, something more than just a sidewalk, because if somebody's on their phone, or they have to
They
avoid
bump,
hitting the
swerve,
person in front of them, they're gonna swerve onto the path, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
a physical
can we
barrier
look at
is
what those
good.
options are?
We could look at those options. I know with highways, they're pretty picky about, having an offset from the, like
Right,
travel
right,
lane.
yeah.
You have to be so far back before you plant a tree or
Yeah,
do
it's-
anything very solid. So I haven't really looked into that.
It's worth-
but I
it's
totally
worth looking
hear you
into,
with ideas.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Jersey barrier wouldn't be pretty.
It would not be pretty.
Well, I mean, but.
But I mean, even if it's
If we use
something
more,
low enough
you
to
feel a little bit
stop
more safer.
If you get approval to do it, then from there you go to design and you
Yeah,
approve the
yeah,
application and it
something.
gets built. So,
36 or something like that.
I mean, I think all those things,
There's sidewalk-
when these things go,
Separation with
when the
the
application
wrought
goes in front for approval, those types of safety concerns have to be addressed during that,
Right,
during
so
the
we may as well
application
just,
period. So
yeah.
you could put it in there.
And put like if there's some idea. Or
You could put a
something
condition in
that
there
we
to
found
where
that
they
we
need to
like.
be considered of
We
safety
like the feeling.
due to
Yeah.
high speeds.
But you're right, because we do fight for access along, pedestrian access, but then it's not really that desirable because Eagle Road is such a roadway.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Well, and at the end of the day, it comes down to, who wants the access? Is it feasible? And does it make sense?
And who's paying?
If you want to get over to Kleiner, that's something that you have to hop over to get there. So, unfortunately, that's where they're doing it.
I think it's
The other option is that this U-stick path that goes to records.
Right.
So this
Yeah,
talking about like the red
the crossing here would still be more desirable than like if we ended up having to cross Fairview, like if we had to come up this way, but that, and like, so instead, go up like here and then go along here, because this isn't developed. This is for sale.
Well, there's actually a development proposed for P&Z this
And
month.
then from there, you just have to kind of come
So
down,
let's get, we have staff reports still, so.
kind of finish it out on this
Meridian.
canal. Right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's going to be, there's going to be a good
There's
portion
like
of
a
that.
private drive to the park, right? This whole is like the private drive.
Still, right? Yeah, this is Verado.
Yeah, Verado.
So it's like they're developing all this. These, a lot of them are done, some of them are, but maybe we could get on this and over here.
Yeah, bike lanes coming down it, but that's not enough.
So I think
I have time flipping it.
Well, that's just the idea, but it sounds like
I think existing Verado comes all the way down to here, right? And it goes.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It jogs. It does this jog.
Yep. And then there was that little blank slate, yeah.
Right, and then what you just wrote here, that little section right there is what's going to be added when they do this, and so we would just need to finish it out
So
along that.
this might be an NPR.
Yeah, because it's already built out.
Yeah, but there would be access both sides. Great.
So did we get through all 6?
We did, yeah. I think this is good input. We should probably do some formal adjournment.
We need staff reports.
Oh, got it. Okay,
That's
yes.
why I'm like-
Crack the whip. I feel like these.
Thank you so much, because this is awesome.
Oh, it does feel good to be hands-on.
I'm just going to interject. Is this on? Kim, for the sake of the minutes, I'm going to suggest that that you capture for each of the 6 areas just a summary of the highlights of the changes for Rachel that she could incorporate into the minutes. Because creating minutes for the free-for-all discussion will be difficult, but I think we have. If we were to create a summary, we could do that.
Okay. Oops. Is that going?
Are we on?
Madam President and Commissioners, that was a great work session. Thank you. I'm going to be back and forth trying to look at notes and capture some of this input. I think for Aldapi Park and the area north of Chinden down off the bench, we talked about making a connection with the Farmers Union Irrigation District and look at possibility of an east-west pathway along the Phyllis Canal at the base of the bench, sharing some information about the FACTS group that does a lot of work along the Boise River corridor, staying out of the floodplain or keeping that in mind, at least in terms of having an east-west greenbelt type pathway that could be usable most of the year, even in higher water conditions. Also, the interface to STAR, and then to invite FACTS, some representatives to one of our near-term meetings.
And I didn't mean you had to summarize it all at the pulpit right now, or the podium. I just like you to when you, I think you could just capture it all in writing tomorrow while it's fresh and get that to Rachel, and she can put it in the minutes.
May I just say that's a lovely suggestion?
Yeah.
Please watch for that.
But I do appreciate you trying to do that.
With
That
your
was-
permission, excuse myself now.
You are absolutely excused. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Kim.
All right,
That was
thank you.
really, I feel like it's really useful to have a workshop. Okay, so now we have staff reports.
I'm going to end where we began. I'm just going to say that I'm really proud of what Shelley put together this year for the annual report. I do hope you'll take a moment to look through it because it has been a wonderful year, and there is a lot of great accomplishments and stories in here that I think you and the department should be very proud of. So take it, read it, share it. And
Is that Colin that I see?
Yeah.
Yeah, with this statewide award.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've brought that up before, but and then Rachel did send out an email. I want to just touch on the state of the city. We do need your feedback by next Tuesday, but if you could do it tomorrow while you're thinking of it, that'd be great. We need to know whether you plan on coming. Because of the limited seating, we need to know how many seats will be taken by commissioners and staff members before tickets go on sale to the public. So we do need your feedback as whether you can make it. We hope you all can. So please let us know if you can make it to that event, and we will get you a ticket. So with that, I'm going to stand for any questions.
I was going to add that I think it's on, right? Yeah. We were talking about shade earlier, and we opened bids on the shade structure for the band shell at Kleiner Park, and we got 2 bids. Right now we're under budget. We still need to get some engineering done. We're having a pre-construction meeting on Friday. We're going to try to get them in there to drill piers while the ground's frozen in January to kind of minimize some of the damage to the surrounding turf and concrete and stuff like that. So anyway, I just thought you should know that we have a project, and we're off and running. So
It's exciting.
I'll sit for questions if you have them.
He joked and asked if I wanted a really long staff report. No. Anything else?
My turn? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be brief. We're excited to have the new ambassador vehicle that just got delivered last week, and so we're in the process of getting the licensing and everything, but the ambassadors are just chomping at the bit to get in there and start driving around. One of the big news from this last month, we had the kickoff meeting for the home court Bay 5 renovations, and so we've got an architect and we have a construction manager on board, in the process of negotiating contracts, but more or less on board. And so the timeline right now of kicking off around the middle of May and trying to be done by the beginning of October is looking realistic based on everything that we've talked about with our construction manager and architect. So it is still a tight timeline, but we are working towards that as best we can, and so we're really excited to be able to get that all, and we're doing everything. Just if you remember, there was discussion of phasing, but the restrooms, the entryway, the new flooring in Bay 5 will all be done in one big construction project this summer. We had Vicky, if you haven't met Vicky, she's our new admin assistant. She's doing great so far. Allie's replacement. She got thrown in the deep end with the activity guide coming out and volleyball registration deadline and basketball registration deadline all on the same day last Friday. Between her and Jeanette, they did $38,000 worth of registrations in one day. And so she is she's in the deep end. We're very excited to have Vicky. She's doing fantastic. And then we have our summer camp coordinator position posted, and we're looking forward to another good summer we've got some good candidates already coming in, so we're excited. So that's kind of the highlights. Stand for questions.
Madam President? Yeah. Colin, did we get the second floor on that Bay 5 or no?
No, so the Bay 5 is not classrooms, like walled classrooms anymore. Bay 5 is going to be a multi-purpose sport court that's going to be lined for a short basketball court, a volleyball court, and 2 pickleball courts. But there will be curtains, a curtain that goes across so that we can still host classes, and we are expecting that we will host classes there almost every night of the week, sometimes multiple classes every night of the week. It's just going to, they'll have to figure out the sound, because curtains obviously aren't going to do much to block sound, but it's going to be a much more multi-usable space, because even now with morning pickleball has gotten so popular that they will overflow into Bay 5 right now. They will use up the 12 courts that are in the main, and they'll overflow to use 14 total courts for our morning pickleball program. And so it's going to be really nice to have it be usable for multiple different sports classes, different things. So those curtains, I think, will be better than having physical walls.
So can people rent that area?
Sure. Yeah, Bay 5 will be Well, Bay 5 will be rentable just like the other courts. It will be available less often probably because we will have a lot of classes over there. I think they're anticipating a lot of daytime classes over there as well. There's a lot of our dance instructors classes that would be really beneficial to have there because not only will it be a better flooring than what's at the community center, but there will be mirrors along the wall. And so the martial arts and the dance and the fitness classes, having a mirror on the wall is really beneficial to them. And so we anticipate a lot of the instructors wanting to move over there once the renovation is complete.
So just looking at some of the minutes, I noticed that there were roughly more than 8,000 people at the parade. Was that kind of the idea? Is that a guess?
It's a guess. Yeah.
I did want to mention, though, the Winterland Festival. So the photographer is a friend of mine, and she took 435 photos, which, most of those photos have multiple children.
That's awesome.
So we were guessing that we were probably at least about 600 kids.
That's awesome.
And if you guys didn't see the email, it's almost 800 pounds of food and
$330.
Yeah, $332. So sorry, I just had to add that because I am a little biased to the Christmas side of things.
And Madam President, if I could, I don't want to take too much time, but the Christmas and Meridian events are now in our rearview mirror, but they were so big and so amazing. And I want to thank the commissioners for coming out in force, donning the crazy costumes as elves on the shelf to support the idea that Jessica had put out there. Dom was in full elf on the shelf regalia for most of the afternoon, I think. So anyway, we had tremendous support, and I just want to say thank you for supporting both the float, and I know you were at the stage, and just the events in general, and Winterland Festival, Children's Festival.
You guys.
So
I know, and I did make the news.
Nice.
You did make the news.
And I always sound ridiculous, so.
Madam President, that stage, by the way, looked phenomenal. It looked great. I think the whole parade was a huge success. I mean, and it's obvious by the sheer amount of people that show up.
Even with the rain, and it stopped in time, so.
Yeah, so
if that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
So grateful.
I know we did go a little bit bigger with the stage and some of the activities, but I heard zero complaints other than hearing about some of the traffic, right? Yep. So if that's the worst thing, we'll take it.
We were having a little bit of technical difficulty with the lights on our float on the Parks and Recs, but Commissioner Steele kind of jiggled the power strip there and made it work.
Probably caused it to begin.
And we also figured out we don't have our sign for our banner. For
right,
next
we
year.
didn't have a banner.
To have the banner.
Okay, yeah, they're.
And I did bring that up, but I'll try and remember to follow up on that.
That's what they thought.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone, and I guess
Madam President?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting. I think that's what you were fishing for.
That's what I was.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Yeah, see you next year.
Good job, Joe. Hey, Rachel, I just sent you an email. It's a picture of Steve on the float. Doing this, hey!